One thing, I kind of like this, so I was hopeful to set a date for next month, and I kind of like that first Monday, but I'm not married to it, but but the 26th or 28th, I was wondering if everybody would be okay with that.
March 26th?
March 26th, yeah, 6:30.
Yep, that's fine with me.
Is the, because I know on finance, we were talking about having every other Monday.
He may have been talking about that, but that doesn't mean he's got it booked, so, yeah, so. 26th is a Monday, and 28th is a Wednesday, but we've been kind of doing Mondays ourselves. All right. Okay, so I'm going to shoot for the 26th. At that time, at our November meeting, 2017, we had before us a petitioner on behalf of Celco, and they're a subsidiary of Verizon, and it was a public hearing, and at the time, what we did was we tabled it without putting together a date for for the next event. And that was my fault. So I'd like to take that up on the 26th. So if you weren't here at the time, Councilor Valentin wasn't here at the time. So this was a case where you had a local attorney representing Verizon, and they wanted to put up smaller cell towers at one place in Kmart Plaza, and then another two in South Holyoke. And by a 3-2 vote, we decided to table it. From our discussion, it was well, it's all on tape. So I had some frustrations with the property owner in Ward 3. And Councilor Oman has some frustrations. That's what was with the property owner in Ward 2. I mean, that was it. And we were hopefully get some feedback, and the answer was no. So I should have tabled it to a date certain. Chris, if we take it up on the 26th of March, that'll be sufficient, do you think? Is there anything else we need to do? And why don't you just identify yourself?
Yes, I'm Chris Urchel. I work for the city solicitor's office. Hi. As far as I'm concerned, I just know that the law firm was anxious to have a decision on the matter, and the law firm representing Celco, and so as far as I'm concerned, I think that they will be happy having a date certain. I just know a date certain within a month. I just know that there's federal law that kind of cabins how much time the municipality can take on making a determination on these kind of special permit applications. That's all.
Yeah, and while we don't have a legal opinion, I'm not asking for one either. Is it okay if because we didn't establish a date certain at that November meeting. So is it okay if we establish that date now?
Right. So let me think for 1 second. I believe that that's a perfectly acceptable thing. There will be plenty of notice for everyone. And I think to reopen a public hearing might be an issue. Is that what you would intend to do?
That is what we will do.
Right,
At the time, we tabled the matter, but we didn't continue it to a date certain.
Right. Okay, yes, I think that you can do that right now, table it to a date certain, and as long as there's notice to everybody, it shouldn't be an issue, and there's a month, so there's plenty of time to make sure.
Okay, and we're not going to give, I'm not thinking we have to advertise or anything like along those lines, right? I just think we can just have a regular agenda go out. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's the case, and I'll double check before, I make
Okay.
sure that message gets to you if there's any problem with that.
Okay, so, all right, and I think I forwarded your email to, and the attachments to the committee, at least I hope, okay.
Yep.
I hope, okay.
If anyone has any questions about the substance of that, of that communication, I'm happy to talk about that too.
No, that was really why I want to take that up, so that'll be on the agenda amongst whatever else we have to have on the agenda, so.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Great, thank you so much.
thank you, I want to get you going. Okay, so, I'll just take a motion that's complied with right now.
So moved.
All right, on the motion, all in favor, aye. Okay, I get a motion to take up number 1, please? On the motion, take the previous meeting minutes, all in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. I reviewed them this afternoon. They looked okay to me. So I don't really have any changes to make.
Also accept the minutes?
Okay.
Second.
Thank you for that. On the motion to accept the prior meeting minutes, all in favor? Aye. Okay, motion approved. Okay, if I could get a motion to take number 2 off the table.
Second.
The motion is ordered that in accordance with Chapter 30B, City Council consider declaring 278 Pine Street as surplus property available for disposition. On the motion to take up the table, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Marcos, if you come and join us for a minute.
Good evening.
Good evening, Marcos. Thanks for being here. And I know there's been a lot of phone calls and a lot of things like, so right now, I'm just going to declare for the record, right now, I called up the State Ethics Commission for this matter, but I do not have a conflict. If the potential buyer does come in and make an offer, I would have a direct conflict, and I would, relinquish the chair, and I wasn't sure who the vice chair was, but I guess Mike Sullivan's the vice chair, so Mike will have to take over and chair it, but that will be for a future meeting. So right now, it's just to declare, the order just to declare it surplus. With that being said, and that on the record, and I know our administrative assistant is going to note that in the minutes, I just want that noted in writing as well. So, Marcos, why don't you tell us what's happening at 278 Pine Street?
Sure. So, as councilors may remember, 278 Pine Street was the site of formerly multi-unit housing structure. Was it about 4 stories high? That over the years, it had become not only vacant, but in significant disrepair. Due to the condition of the building, the city thought determined that it was a significant public safety risk and dedicated CDBG funds to take it down. We are in a position where we want to explore the possibility of seeking proposals for an outcome other than just a public infrastructure project there, something like an affordable housing outcome, which would allow us to close out the project not as a demolition project, which would go against our annual cap. And Alicia can explain those numbers much better than I can, but that would lead to a structure being built or placed on the site. It's not a definitive that we would sell it, but seeing that we have to close out the project, or at least represent to HUD that we have a viable way of closing out a project in a way that doesn't just leave a vacant site, we thought that this would be appropriate to declare it surplus first.
Okay, and do we have a, so we're going to declare it surplus, and the plan would be to what, to put it up for auction, to RFP?
There's one particular interested party that does affordable housing that approached us. Honestly, that's how the idea kind of came about. I'll at least speak for myself. I don't know if others already had the idea. But that's how the idea came about. We would probably circulate this to a couple of other affordable housing developers for good measure. We're going to be on a tight timeline, so we'll see what is actually actionable, and seeing what best proposal. If there is a good proposal, then it would be presented to the council for approval in a subsequent meeting.
And the assessed value?
It's about $31,000.
Right. Any committee members have questions for the OPED director? No? No? No, if you want to say anything, Council, you can. If not, then it's up to you. Council Sullivan?
Yeah, no, just to remind everybody, no matter what we're gonna do with this piece of property, it has to be declared surplus. We went through this gyration on the geriatric authority. Just declaring it surplus doesn't mean it's going to any particular place, or any person, or how it's gonna be disposed of. It's the first step. It has to happen.
That's right, and we found out that the vote at city council for surplus is 2/3, and the vote to convey a property is by majority. Am I wrong, or am I right on that?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. So 2/3 for surplus, majority for conveyance, I guess, that's the best way. Okay, well, I mean, I'm in favor of this, so I think it's the more parcel we get off the balance sheet, the better, so, but if anybody else wants to say anything, nobody? Councilman Tallman?
Yeah, I just want to state that I think it's important that we take these vacant lots and do something with them. And declaring it surplus, as Councilor Sullivan says, the first step, and it's important to get these lots, or any lots throughout the city that are city-owned out there to available for bid for any, they say nonprofit or anybody to try to bid this and trying to bring a taxable property on there, on that site. So I'm very much in favor of this, and it'll take that corner lot there that's just a dirt lot and actually put something on there that'll generate tax dollars for the community, so.
I think that's a great point. Councilman Tallman, I think I agree. We did a pretty good job of this committee, not make a paved lot. We were glad it was demoed with CDBG, that was great, but there's also indication there was gonna be paved with CDBG, and, fortunately that didn't happen. That would've been a kind of a, so we're glad for that. Oh, Councilor Valentine,
Thank
yeah.
you. It is in Ward 4, so I'm definitely all for any type of development that could be conducive to the community there. Just for folks that are at home, to give you an idea of where this is, it's kind of in the same area as the senior center, where the bank is going to be coming up. So I think it would be something that would be very favorable to that area of the ward, and I encourage us all to support this.
Yeah, well said. Marcos, while I was thinking, you and I talked briefly about 188 Chestnut, which is in that vicinity. What's the status of that? That's Wayfinders?
Yes, Wayfinder submitted a proposal for that one. I guess it's not on the agenda, or I don't know if it's...
No, it's not easy.
So it would have to be on an upcoming agenda. I believe it's in the jacket.
Okay, so that's something we'll put on for the 26th as well, of next month.
Mm-hmm.
So to get an update on 188 Chestnut.
Yep.
So, all right. Okay.
Second.
Okay, on the motion to declare this parcel surplus, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Okay, that's good. Thank you. So
Thank
we
you.
approve that 5-0.
Motion to take up item number 3.
Second.
On the motion, let's see, item number 3, that the Councilor Roman filed an order that the Holyoke DPW provide a detailed inventory of all benches, park equipment, and storage at John J. Lynch. On the motion, take up the table. All in favor? Aye. Councilor Roman?
I just thank the committee. I know we had a really good conversation with Mike Mathis last time. I still haven't heard any further updates, and I know that I'm trying to work with his office to see if we can get those off the street. And I did have a question. There was recently, and I actually am trying to talk with Beth. There was recently, I saw a bid for benches that the city's looking to purchase benches. So I was just wondering if we could save some money
Yeah, so that's,
based off of that. So I just wanted to kind of, I know I have an email into Beth to see if that's a CBDG project or if that's a localized project. And I know we have you here, Alicia, so can I pick your brain? Is that a CBDG project? Is there-
Alicia,
talk on the mic?
yeah, if we need a mic.
That'd be great to find out if we have what the benches are for.
So if you remember back a few years, we allocated funds to Pulaski Park over a 2-year allocation, and a portion of that allocation was for benches. The specs and designs for those benches were done under Bill Fuqua quite a while ago now, maybe 2 years ago, and we finally have those out to bid. So the current bid that's on the streets, I believe it's being opened tomorrow at 2 o'clock, is for a standardized bench that we use in all of our parks, based on a specification that was designed for Pulaski Park. And so we're going to use the Pulaski Park allocation to buy as many benches as we can for Pulaski. And then depending on how the bids come in, if we have money left over for some of the other parks that are currently CDBG funded, we would purchase additional benches for those parks as well.
Oh, yeah, please.
Is there any way to use the few benches that we have now to see if they're purposable for, because the whole reason why we brought this up is to try to use all the, I think he said there's 5 round ones that we could put around trees, that they create like a circle bench that you could put around a tree structure, or there's like some half ones. Can we use those as well, or is that part of the planning at all with you guys, or?
So Mike McManus and I had this conversation earlier today about the benches and trash cans that are in storage at Lynch. My understanding is that those were ones that were donated to the city by the Holyoke Mall, and that they are not actually outdoor benches that would be weather tolerant, use tolerant in our parks. And so Mike and I sort of tossed around some other ideas about what we could do with those. Maybe there's places in the city that have overhangs, so the benches aren't completely exposed to the weather. Maybe, I think he had mentioned maybe Wisteria Hearst could use some of them. But we do have one of the things when we're doing parks work is we like to be very consistent. So you remember a few years ago you funded a CDBG grant for park sign design and then installation. And so we try to be consistent from park to park. And so that means that now all of our park signs are gonna look the same. And so the benches are very similar. We like to have a standard bench specification that we use. But I do think there are creative options for the stuff that we have from the mall. So
What would make a bench weatherized? Like, so the only reason why I ask is because those are metal, they're like really high gloss coated, so if he stated that they're not weatherized for outdoor usage, correct? That was his analysis?
yeah, I mean, that was
or-
part of the conversation today, is that he didn't think that they were as weather tolerant as our standard spec benches. I am by no means an outdoor furniture person. So, I mean, and they were in the mall, and so they were inside. I wish Mike was here, because I don't want to speak anymore on them, other than the brief conversation I had, which was
Today,
they're
okay.
really not for outdoor use.
Okay.
And frankly, we're trying hard to standardize across the city so that the parks, every park, there's just a standard that we're using. And so to throw in sort of ones that are out of spec, I don't think that's what DPW or Parks is looking for. So, but I would certainly follow up with Mike and find out.
Well, I
I
will,
know there's outdoor,
Only
like,
because I know that as we've been coming up on these CBDG park designs, one park's benches might be for little kid versus another's might be for adults. So, and again, and that's more of a technical question for Mike, so I'll have to follow up with him. I'd still like to table this, Mr. Chairman, because, with the committees, thank you for your patience on this. I just want to get these out, and if not exactly that, put out an RFP to ask organizations, nonprofits, and I was going through the Nueva archives. It was cool to see that benches that came offline from the city, Nueva took 2 of them, and we actually have one still outside that wasn't weatherized, that we have right in front of the Mercado, that the kids painted in the 90s, that the city donated when they redid their benches. So maybe put it out there to these community organizations and groups to say who wants it. But I think it's great that we're doing that, but at the same time, it's kind of like we have a warehouse full of benches and all this great stuff, and yet it's still there, and yet we're going out to bid. But thank you for clarifying on your end. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and I did receive a text from Mike, and he says he didn't have an update other than Wisteria Hearst might have a use for some of the benches and some of the planters. So I'll tell you what, Nelson, when we meet on the 26th, why don't you be sure in the meantime to send an email. We'll put it on the agenda. We'll continue it to the 26th of March. And if you could reach out to Mike, and we'll take him up the very first thing with that. So
Motion to table.
on the motion table, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so we'll table that to the 26th of March.
Motion to take up item number 4.
Second.
Okay, item number 4 is FY 28, I think it should be 2019, CDBG block grant allocations. On motion to take off the table, on favor? Aye. Okay, so, Alicia, welcome back. Since you live with us all the time, you're gonna be kind of running the show here, and you're gonna let us know what's happening. Oh, and then you'll kind of tell us how the CAC worked out and all the rest of it, so, and that mic is on, correct? Okay, and welcome back again, so nice to see you, your annual visit to City Council, so it's a real pleasure for all of us.
And you have Zaida behind you as well.
Who's behind us?
You have
Oh,
Zaida's our finance manager, so she's going to be running the financial PowerPoint for
well,
you.
welcome to you as well, good to see you, I didn't realize somebody was behind me, okay, well, that's, all right, well, that works out, got us surrounded. Okay, Alicia,
So, good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. We are hoping to make this as painless a process as possible for you. And so we have the spreadsheet set up on the screen. As you make your recommendations, Zaida will be filling them in the blue column. And then she will scroll down and show you how much money you have actually allocated, so that you'll have a running total to see what's happening there. This year, we went out for proposals. We've done a couple of different things. One of the different things that we did this year to try to entice other agencies and invite more folks into the process is we held a brown bag lunch series back in December and invited any member of the community, nonprofits, business owners in, bring your lunch, to talk about how to access CDBG funds. And so I would say we probably had 30 people at that training. It was just an hour. It was a crash course in CDBG. And from that, we did garner some new proposals this year. We've done reviews in-house. You'll see those on the spreadsheet as OCD recommendations. I think that column got closed. And then you'll also see where the Citizens Advisory Council met. And they issued their recommendations, and then the mayor did issue his recommendations last week, showing under the mayor's column. As you probably aware, I'm sure you are, the federal government is a little slow at the moment in enacting budgets, and so we have no idea what our funding level is going to be for July 1st. The federal government's allocation to us is one that would have been set by last October's budget. And as we know, last October's budget remains unset. And so we don't know what the allocation will be until those final numbers come in. So we're going to operate as if we're going to be level funded. That's my hope. Our advocacy groups in Boston give us some indication that we actually may see more money, but I wouldn't hold my breath at this point. So that's the FY18 allocations are the ones you're working on now. For FY19, there is strong evidence and movement in DC to eliminate both the CDBG and home programs altogether. So that would be for not this July, but the following July. So we got a number of non-public service proposals this year in the categories of, the broad categories of housing, code enforcement, demolition, public facilities. And then we have those that came in under the public service category. And just as a reminder, the public service category can only be funded at 15% of the annual allocation. That's a HUD regulation. And then in the administrative line item, that can only be funded up to 20% of the CDBG allocation. I would say both the staff and CIC this year were aligned on a couple of items. One of them was really focusing on projects that could be completed in a timely basis. We cannot have CDBG dollars rolling from year to year the way we have. We have to have projects that are kind of come in, get out to bid, and get finished. There was also a focus on making sure that those that are newcomers to the city that have evacuated from different areas, particularly Puerto Rico, are going to be serviced. And so that's why, for instance, OCC staff recommended heavily funding public services around the issues of housing, food, childcare or child programming, and some job training. And I think. And then in terms of Springdale Park, with OCD and with the CAC, you'll notice that we recommended doing a small allocation for phase one. And that is so that the Springdale Park can have its design and engineering work done in this CDBG cycle with the hopes of a full allocation in 19. Even though we don't really know what's going to happen with 19, we like to kind of look ahead. And we know that it's been challenging to get engineering, design, and physical projects done in all one rotation. And so by doing the design and engineering this year, it gives us ample opportunity to seek CDBG funds and perhaps state grants for the public piece, for the public construction piece at the other end. We did send both the CAC sent a memo to the city council as well as staff, and you should have had those for quite a while now. And so tonight we're here to have the DGR set their recommendations.
Okay, well,
Your
thank
recommendations.
you for that summary. Okay, so the way we kind of do it is, we can, I think we could start at the top and just kind of work our way.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go, Ms. Melvin?
So, Councilor Sullivan and I basically have had one role or another within CAC.
Yes, thank you for
And
your
so,
help.
yep, and so when the CAC met at the library, Councilor Sullivan was present, and him and I have met since then to discuss the decisions that were made by the CAC. Between the two of us, we went line item by line item with the feedback of, why the decisions were made. And we would like to make a motion, actually, to have the DGR committee adopt the CAC recommendations in full.
I second that motion.
Oh, okay, all right, so you didn't want to have any discussion, you just kind of wanted to just kind of go right through it. Did you, and we'll, the motion on the table, so motion's up right there, so we'll vote on it, but under discussion, do you want to?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So just explain how to work, to quickly go through the CAC recommendations and anywhere the committee has a question to try and answer it quickly as to why that number was achieved or why something was zeroed out quick, instead of getting into a big thing about trying to reallocate everything and spread everything around and go over each line item one by one.
Councilor Mann?
Yes, thank you. I am going to vote against, and I would encourage my other two colleagues to do the same. Reason being, we've gotten the recommendation from the CAC plus the mayor, which gives us a good indication. We know, I know this is my third time around at this. 9 times out of 10, whatever the mayor says is pretty much, he listens to this body, but I like the line-by-line method because I really take into consideration what the mayor says. I go back, talk to my constituents, talk to people in the public and say, hey, this is what the mayor recommended based off of the work that you all did. And it's the time to go back to the people to say advocate, but this body does a really good job, Mr. Chairman, of sending him our message. And a lot of times we disagree with the CAC, and I walked in this evening saying, hey, I read the CAC's recommendation, I read the mayor's. There's some stuff I don't agree with, there's some stuff we advocate and push for in here. And I'll bring up the example every year. Last year and the year before I was pushing for nurturing families, and I think when Councilor McGivern was on here, we fought for the community policing. I didn't see that application this year, but I remember having that whole debate where the CAC gutted the community policing, and this committee put it back in, Mr. Chairman. So I would encourage us to go by line. We do very much so. If there's a question, we go to you both. We ask you what the CAC was thinking. We also ask Office of Planning and Community Development. We also ask your input, and based off of that, we come to a consensus. But to just blanket approve it, I think is doing a disservice to this body and what we've done. And I like that conversation. I like that debate. I like coming up with compromise. And, the council always goes along with what we say. So if we just blanket approve this, we're not giving this body the chance to give its opinion to the mayor and to the public, because our body, 9 times out of 10, always goes off of what we recommend. And I want to get into some of these line by line. I want to add more. I want to, deduct or agree with the mayor based off of his shifting. And sometimes it's a compromise. Like I know there's one specifically around what we were just talking about, Springdale Park and Dean Tech. I want to put money back in and recommend that we get the Dean Tech scoreboard installed, and I saw that the mayor did that, the CAC didn't. And I'm the ward counselor down there, and I can tell you, Mackenzie Field's beautiful. Dean Tech Field needs a new scoreboard, folks. And that's something that my opponent 2 years ago was talking about, Terry Murphy and the park department's talking about, and all the residents down there, including the Miracle League, when they did their sports games, really wants a good scoreboard. So I think that, I'm going to encourage my other two colleagues to vote against this. Let's go line by line. Let's take the time, when it's CBDG night, we got to do this. So I'm going to vote against it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think right, just so I'm clear, did you want to have the CAC for both non-public and the public as well? Do you want to go all the way through, or because usually we kind of segregate it out. We do the non-public first, and then we do the public. So is the motion for the whole?
The motion was for the whole,
but the whole, okay. Okay, all right. Council Tallman, did you want to weigh in on this?
No, I respect the decision. They put the time in and everything, but I also got to realize that there's some things in here that I may not agree with totally, and want to find some answers why they picked, a certain amount, and the mayor picked either less or more, and he might have cut some things out. I don't think it'll take that much time, really, but I think it's just to give an opportunity to find out there's some certain areas here that we may want to change or cut as a group here, as a committee that we bring forward to the full council, that we're not just saying that we're just going along with everything that's written here. So I think we should take the time to go through line by line, and I don't think it'll take that much time. Just, there might be a few items here that I may not agree with totally, and bring those up.
All right. Okay, so on the motion, I guess we'll just do a roll call. Councilor Valentin?
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilor Tallman?
No.
Councilor Roman?
No.
Councilor Bartley's a no. Okay, so let's just go through it. I don't think it'll take terrible.
Can I just clarify something really quick?
Of course, Councilor Valentin.
It's our thought process behind doing this is not necessarily the time. It's actually the strong message of saying that the CAC took the time to make these decisions, to weigh the options, and I think it was more of a let's send a strong message of support to this committee. And so I just wanted to clarify that was the reasoning, the main reasoning behind our
Much
thought
appreciated.
process.
Yep, sounds good. Councilor Sullivan?
I'd like just to add to that this committee was handpicked by the mayor, right? We have no input as to who's on that committee, and I think when you
The CAC was handpicked by the mayor, is that?
right.
Okay, right.
And, when we've got a committee like this of, average citizens that put in their time, put in the effort like this, we really need to get behind them and show them some support.
And how many members of CAC do we have this year? And how many CAC meetings took place?
We had, the CAC reviewed their proposals in one night this year. It was about a 3-hour meeting. We have, I believe, 7 CAC members, although a couple of folks we have not seen this year. And then we also have CAC members attend our other public hearings and meetings throughout the year. But they spent about 3 hours, I'd say, this year in meeting reviewing the applications.
Councilor Mott?
How many members of the public submitted public commentary or that came to the CAC meeting on that night? And where did the meeting take place?
The meeting took place at the public library in the community room on the first floor. We try to do all of our meetings in an accessible location, particularly for downtown residents. We didn't have any members of the public this year, I don't believe. But I will say that, folks, it's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting. And so we typically do not take any sort of testimony. And the reason for that is a historic reason that seems to have worked well, because if you have 45 proposals, you could end up with 45 agencies all wanting to testify about how great their individual activity is, as opposed to having the group conversation. So.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so, do you want us to go down it?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so we'll just start at the top. Well, Wayfinders is acquisition of 3 properties. That didn't seem like it got any traction at all.
Motion to approve it at $0, because that's what we're doing line by line, right? Motion to approve
Yeah.
Wayfinder's
Well,
request?
we can take a vote on all this. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, so.
Okay.
All right, the Office of Community, demolition of to-be-determined properties. So CAC had it 50,000, OCD at 100, and the mayor put it at 100,000, so
Motion to make it 100,000?
I'll second it. Discussion?
You want to do it? So the reason for knocking it down to 50 was OCD. We've now put in place a city demolition team that wasn't there previously. They've already done quite a bit this year. You'll be seeing it again in the budget. It was quite controversial in our budget last year. The team is doing such a good job that OCD feels that they can get by on less money, and they're still getting a lot done.
Thank you.
Councilor Mann?
Alicia, I'm just going along with everyone else's recommendations, but the CACs, you recommended less, but at 100,000. Can you describe why OCD, I agree it should be 100,000. I think it's half of what they were allocated last year, and based off of everyone else's recommendations, why did you feel 100,000 was appropriate?
Are you asking why we put in for 200 and we only recommended 100?
Yes.
Because when we put our application in, we compete against all of the other applications, and we don't know all the other applications that are going to come in. And so if we only get 4 applications in this category, then we've at least requested 200,000 and it can be fully funded. Where we had a vast number of quality applications this year, we thought, okay, we could do with 100 or 50. We're flexible there. The other thought is, if for some reason, some crazy reason, the federal government sought to give us a large sum of cash for CDBG this year, then we're on the books as having requested 200,000 for demolition.
And out of that 200,000 from last year, because again, you have to use the money before the end of the year, was all of it used? And can you say for what projects or?
Sure. So just to clarify, it's the public service categories where the money absolutely cannot roll over. So any of those categories for youth, for food, for counseling, any of those public services, the money absolutely expires on June 30th, and we get tested on our spending rate on May 2nd. So that's why the public service cannot be funded any further. Public facility type projects can roll from year to year, but then that money starts to build up and you could have a real problem. So in terms of demolition, our current demolition, we have scheduled and it's impending. It was supposed to be last week and it should be in the next couple of weeks. We have 405 Main Street coming down. Be very happy about that one. That has been, we've been trying to tear that down for probably 20 years. And then the second one that we're doing is 285 Main Street is coming down. And that's a total of about 210,000 for the two of them.
And I know only because I'm on the dangerous property group, there's a lot of others coming behind there.
Yep.
So again, based off, thank you so much. I think $100,000 is great. So I would encourage the committee to approve it at 100,000. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. I support it myself, so on the motion to keep it 100,000, Council Tallman?
No.
Yes.
Council Roman? Council Bartley, yes. Council Sullivan?
No?
Council Valentin?
No.
Okay, that fails. Have another motion?
Motion to put it at 50,000?
Second.
Okay, on the motion to, we understand your arguments, I thought they were good ones. Council Valentin?
Again, encouraging the decision of the CAC and also the points that Councilor Sullivan made regarding the staffing.
Okay, all right, well, we can vote on this. Council Valentin, you want to vote?
50,000, yes.
Okay, yes. Council Sullivan?
Yes.
Council Bartley is a yes. Council Roman?
No.
Council Tallman?
Yes.
Okay, 50,000 is our recommendation. Right? All right, the Board of Health, Code Enforcement, Blight. Looks like everybody's in line on that one.
Motion to approve at 134,500.
Okay, on the motion to improve at 134,550, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Motion carries. Holyoke Farms LLC, pre-development costs. Alicia, what happened with that one?
So this is a multi-million-dollar project out at Holyoke Farms to rehab some of the units, to put in a community center, new infrastructure, parking lot, playground, that sort of thing. These folks applied for 250 in the event that we saw either fewer proposals and we were able to fund it with CDBG, or in the event that we receive additional CDBG dollars. We are working closely with them to identify other funding sources. We may look to the home program to fund them as well. But again, if a project is eligible, we invite the applications. But in this case, where we had other more pressing needs, we opted not to recommend funding it.
Yeah, that's just a really dense area, and while a lot of us are really appreciative of all the work that we do in 1 and 2 and 4, it's nice to sort of consider, that's kind of Ward 5, believe it or not. So it'd be nice to sort of give Ward 5, which there aren't too many areas in Ward 5 that would be CDBG eligible. So I'd like to look at that down the road and see what we could do for. I mean, that's again, it's an important neighborhood.
We're looking to secure home funds for them. In the event that they don't get funded here, we are working with them through another funding source. So.
Okay. I mean, Councilor Tallman, you're.
Yeah, I agree with you. That area, I think, I go up there several times during the week, and that area could use a community room and playground and the whole area. And I know they're doing some work on some of the buildings up there. They're actually rehabbing the facing, the windows and all that in that area. And it is an area that could use some help. So I think that's a great thing that is any way you could identify any other funding sources is important to keep working with them. That'd be great.
And we approved a special permit for them for new parking. Okay, we did that as well. So so they're which they're doing with their private dollars, right? So I mean, it's just a really it's a nice neighborhood. I mean, I sort of support it down the road, but in this case, looks like we're not gonna. So why don't we? So that Wayfinders and Holyoke Farms, I guess Nelson, we should probably vote on those together, right? So.
Motion to approve is $0.
Second.
Okay, so on the motion to not fund Wayfinders and Holyoke Farms, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, so those would be 0. All right, so next one is Old Holyoke. We have 2. We have Hadley Village Townhouse Courtyards and Neighborhood Improvement Program. So Hadley Village Townhouse Courtyards.
Motion to approve is 0.
Second.
Just under discussion, Alicia, what's Hadley Village Townhouse Courtyards? What's happening there?
So the Hadley Village Townhouses is a complex of housing units originally built as worker housing. Most of them are historic townhouses down off of Lyman Street. At this point, it's a mix of owner-occupied and rental housing, and there was a proposal by One Holyoke CDC to lead a rehab of the exterior rear areas of the houses. They need some masonry work, some tree work, improved fencing, and that sort of thing. It was not recommended for funding through CDBG, although we have been in conversations with One Holyoke about potentially using what we call the Rental Neighborhood Improvement Program. It's a revolving loan fund that is aside from the regular CDBG allocations. People can take out low-interest loans or grants depending on income levels and that sort of thing. So if it wasn't funded through here, we are identifying additional resources. And I should say that there was $3.3 million in requests this year for non-public services. We only have about $731,000 to allocate. So when staff sits and does our allocations, we're really looking for projects that are building on prior projects. We're looking on projects that we know can be completed in a timely basis and that sort of thing. So that's where our recommendations come from. We also make certain recommendations if we know that we can identify other funding sources. So it was tough this year because we just didn't expect almost 3.4 million in requests, so. There goes the CPA committee.
Well, and I tell you what, and they deserve a round of applause from all of us, and you get it. So thank you, CPA committee. Thanks for all your work. No, you're interrupt anytime. Boy, Alicia, I think you really kind of summarized the conundrum right there, didn't you? So, okay, on the motion, zeroed out, all in favor? Aye. Okay, this now for neighborhood improvement program.
Motion to allocate $163,000 and 122.
Second?
Okay, under discussion, Councilor Valentin, Councilor Sullivan?
Again, under the discussion at the CAC meeting. Obviously, the neighborhood improvement program is something that we've funded before. It's has good results. Last fiscal year, they had 100,000. This time, they were asking for 374,000. And the CAC committee came up with the 163, 122 figure.
So the CAC raised it by $8,000. What was happening with that thought? You changed the recommendation from OCD by $8,000. Have a good night, Libby. Yeah.
The committee felt very strongly about the success of the program, and anywhere we could squeeze any extra funds and head them in that direction, we did.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that the CAC did, I saw a puzzled look on Councilor Sullivan's face. One of the things that the CAC did was they took $10,000 from a proposal in the administrative and planning category, and they moved those dollars to this category, to the non-public services. So that's why you'll see the CAC with a total of $741,172, is because they took $10,000 from the admin and planning and put it up here. You can't add to the public service category. You can take away from the public service category, but you can't add to it. So that's what they opted to do, was not fund one of the admin and planning proposals fully, and they took that 10,000 and they stuck it up here. And that's why they ended up with such a weird amount at 163, 122, because they did even amounts through, and then they had this leftover cash to block in. And some of the projects, as you've heard me say in the past, some of the projects can be partially funded, and then other activities, they have to be fully funded or they won't move. The neighborhood improvement program is one of those that can be funded at any level, and that's just how much we have to give in homeowner grants.
Okay, but when I look at, okay, so you had, under nominations to National Register, you had $10,000, or $20,000, that shrunk to $10,000. So is that where you took it from? Okay, so let me ask you this, Alicia, can you, under admin and planning, can that be put to public service? No, it can't be, right?
No,
okay.
no, the statutory limit is on public services and admin and planning. Public services are capped at 15% of the annual allocation. If you do the math, you'll see that we're like $10 under, and that's because of a rounding error that is in our online federal treasury system, so we don't want to go over that.
Right.
And then admin and planning is capped at 20%, although you'll see we don't ask for 20% for our admin and planning, so that we have some extra money if a project should come in over budget and that kind of thing.
Hey, Councilor Mann?
So I'm just trying to clarify. So you're saying under public service, we're capped at 15?
Yes.
So does that mean we need to cut from what the CAC did, or we're fine?
No, we set this up for you so that you are coming in right where you're allowed to. So you are allowed to do 168,730. And that's what the CAC opted to do.
Okay, perfect.
And actually, I would just, if I could, we do have a CAC member, another CAC member with us,
Oh. Well, you
So
can
if there's-
identify her if you want.
Kate Kruckmeyer.
Oh, hi, Kate. Thank you for your hard work. You're right on time. Okay, well, we have a motion to approve it at 163, 122. Councilor Mann?
My only hesitation is, and again, because we're not going to, I think that the will of some of the members is just to approve the CAC all the way through, but in looking at the mayor's proposals and some of the things that, again, I would love to see highlighted, like I said, besides the Dean Tech scoreboard, I really believe the Spark, and I do agree with the mayor in this aspect, the Spark program has done amazing work with some of the entrepreneurs that I've seen. So I do agree some funding should go there. But in the creative placemaking, I would love to see more art projects. I know that, we were painting and that was a CBDG funded project, the electrical boxes, right? And those weren't. And which ones were the? That was Cultural Council. Cultural Council. Which one?
We are doing, we're providing materials for, CDBG is providing materials to paint a mural on the handball court at Susie.
Yep. So I would love to see more projects like that, specifically down in the lower community. So I'm hesitant because if we just blanket, keep going with the CAC's recommendations, as we've been doing, we're not going to be able to support some of this other work. And I really want to take into consideration our look at sidewalks. Again, the fact that CAC said none, OCD said none, and I would love to see how much in sidewalks we actually used last year. I would,
Well, on that point, I'm encouraged that the mayor funded sidewalks, so.
yeah, I mean, but these goes back to why, with all due respect to the CAC, I thank you all, and I know I've talked to the mayor about the CAC and, getting appointments and encouraging certain individuals to be appointed to that as well. I do have some hesitations on just blanketing it, but I'll see how it goes.
Okay. No more discussion on that one. I'm not hearing any. On the motion to approve the 163-122, Councilor Valentin.
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilor Bartley's a yes. Councilor Oman.
Yes.
Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Okay, so 163-122. All right. Revitalize CDC, Holyoke Green and Fit Block rebuild.
Motion to allocate 125,000.
Second.
On discussion?
Thank you. This is a project that we've been able to benefit here in Holyoke at least twice that I can think of. They were in Ward 4 all along Beach Street doing amazing work. And this past year they were in Ward 2. I'm disappointed to see that there was nothing allocated by the mayor there. And I would be requesting that as a committee we support this initiative since it is something that has shown results in our city.
This was also one that the CAC felt very, very strongly about being a successful program, and it was quite unanimous across the board there, and I think if they had requested more, they would have gotten more.
Yeah, it looks like, it's a great program. I know you had a lot of success on Beach Street, so, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. So 125.
Mr. President, I'm just going to jump out of order because if we keep doing this, we're just going to do what the CAC wants, with all due respect. I'm actually going to make a motion to approve $95,122 for sidewalks.
I'll second it.
If I can, Mr. President.
Sure.
Alicia, I know CBDG is doing some sidewalk work and money. How much is on, and again, I know that this line item can carry over, but what projects are on the books? How much money? What areas are sidewalks getting redone?
So sidewalks are typically done in the fall. They have not been done this year. The sidewalks, we anticipate them starting, the CDBG sidewalks anticipate them starting in April. They are done in low and moderate income, primarily residential neighborhoods. I don't have the current sidewalk list in front of me. When they go out to bid, they do not go out to bid. I don't think they went out to bid this year with the specific addresses because we hope to be more competitive without actually putting the streets out there ahead of time. But we certainly can get you a list of the streets that are going to be done.
I would just like to speak in favor of this with my colleagues because I know firsthand between myself and the Ward 1 counselor, there are several projects, and I could list them: Elm Street, South Bridge Street, and South Holyoke. There's just a slew, that I know firsthand, because I've worked with the mayor and the administration on this, of sidewalks that are getting done that haven't got redone, and there's still more. So I'm heavily encouraging the committee, even at this small amount, I wish it would be more, but just to agree with the mayor's recommendation to approve these sidewalk repairs, because, like I said, very rarely are the sidewalks in the lower wards getting done. And this is one of those few saving graces where I know Mount Holyoke Property Management still to this day is emailing me because, again, you're right, last fall it was supposed to be done because I was working with Mike. It didn't get done in the fall. They're waiting for this spring for it to be done. But hopefully when that gets done, there are a slew of sidewalks in residential neighborhoods, in CBDG zones, in South Holyoke, the Flats, downtown, that need some loving. And this is the only line item, because we won't take care of it, we can't in our budget, that this is going to get done. So I would strongly encourage that we approve this.
Council Sullivan?
Alicia, just so we're understanding this, the money from last year's CDBG allocation for sidewalks has not yet been spent. That sends it all to me right there. The monies are still available to do sidewalk projects.
The project was bid sometime last fall, but the contract didn't get awarded right away, and then winter comes and the asphalt plant shut down, and so the sidewalks did not get done. But there is a city contract. The vendor is lined up. They're ready to go. We've been told that they're going to start in early April.
And what's the existing allocation?
The CDBG allocation from last year was $252,000. When the sidewalks went out to bid, they went out, the CDBG sidewalks came in very much under bid, and so the contract with the vendor is currently $189, I believe. And then those remaining dollars were reallocated through a reprogramming that we did a few months ago.
Reallocated where?
When we did the reprogramming, we provided additional funding to the neighborhood improvement program because we have so many people waiting for grants. We put almost $10,000 towards Jones Ferry River Access Center because that fence needs to be shored up and replaced before spring. It's a safety hazard. We added additional money to demolition to cover some of the smaller demolition projects. And we had one more that we put money into. Help me, guys. We
Okay,
did NIP, demolition, Jones Ferry. We had four where we had money that needed to come out, and then we had four that I think that went in. I'm sorry, I don't remember the fourth one. Demolition, NIP, Jones Ferry.
Yeah, and that's all positive. I'd say if we don't continue to keep putting money into sidewalks, it just gets passed aside. Now, whether the money wasn't spent last year, I don't really think that's relevant. So I think we have to support it, and it's nice that the mayor's behind it. So, frankly, I'm going to support this motion.
The money, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, sure.
The money wasn't only not spent on sidewalks, it was all redirected. Not all, but a big chunk of it.
Well, you're right. It looks like it was bid at 189, and 63,000 was redirected. So, you're right on that score. I don't. It doesn't change my opinion, though.
There's also money in the city budget for sidewalks.
There is. We have a capital improvement budget since when?
Alicia?
I believe it's described as Chapter 90 money that comes in for sidewalks.
Right. Yes. Yeah. We do get Chapter 90 funds. Yeah, that is true. But we don't have a capital budget. Well, anyhow. So I guess we're ready to vote. So, Councilor Valentin?
No.
Councilor Sullivan?
No.
Councilor Bartley's a yes. Councilor Roman?
Yes.
Councilor Tallman? No. Okay, so that doesn't carry. Let's just go back to regular order here. So emergency shelter resources.
Motion to approve at 25,000.
I'll second that. Under discussion, Councilor Sullivan?
This is for the War Memorial, and you've either got to fund the whole thing or nothing. The 25,000 won't get the job done. You can't put in half the push bars and half the handicap toilets. You've either got to do the whole thing or nothing, and it can only be used for that project at the War Memorial.
So,
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, I just had a question, and I understand that it's all or nothing, but OCD put nothing there. Can you give us a reason why you didn't feel this was a payable project?
We are really supportive of having a community shelter, but again, I just go back to emphasizing our housing stock right now is in such dire need of investment. So we really focused on the housing stock. We focused on Valley Arena that has just been waiting so long and has a park grant. As well as starting Springdale Park. It has nothing to do with the quality of the project. It was really about where the dollars are most needed from our perspective.
Okay, well, the motion's, does anybody want to make a friendly amendment, or Councilor Roman?
I don't want to make a friendly amendment, but like I said, I'm going to channel my good old friend, colleague, Councilor Joe McGivern, and I'm going to start going line by line and making motion after motion until there's compromise. With all due respect to my colleagues, and like I said, the CAC, I hear it, but that's what this body's for. And I've heard directly from some of these project participants, that's the way. If they know you're on DGR, they reach out to you. They say, hey, let's go for it. I think this is a fair compromise made by the mayor, and I agree. I think that 25,000 could start. It's against the recommendation of OCD. It's half of what, a little bit less than half than the committee's recommending. I say if you can do one bathroom there, that's great. And let's remember that the Department of Emergency Services in our city budget falls under the fire department. So even if the opening of the emergency shelter has to be determined by the fire chief. So you have to have two departments working together. I think it's a fair compromise. And I agree. I think the committee, OCD for recommending on Valley Arena Park. I love that. And like I said, when we get to this park and rec section, I'm going to make some recommendations, but I think it's a fair compromise. I don't agree with not fully funding it. I think 25,000 was a reasonable compromise made by the mayor, and I think we should support it. On the motion.
Yeah, on the motion, Councilor Valentin?
No.
Councilor Sullivan?
No.
Councilor Bartley, yes. Councilor Roman?
Yes.
Councilor Tallman? Okay, motion fails.
Motion to fund it at 52,000.
Second.
Okay, on the motion, Councilor Valentin?
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilor Bartley, no. Councilor Roman?
No.
Councilor Tallman? No. Motion fails.
Motion to approve is $0.
I'm going to second that.
I'm basing my decision based off of the Office of Community Development recommendation, so then we could use that money. If it's all or nothing and we don't agree on 25,000, we don't agree on 52,000, let's reallocate those funds to somewhere that's missing, so then we can move forward on other projects. And again, not based off the merit of the project, but purely on the basis of, if we're not going to agree on this, let's reallocate it towards exactly what you said, housing stock or whatever that we can allocate it for.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I have a thought about where I'd like to reallocate it myself. While I support this, I mean, I think we certainly show the need. Perhaps this could come up next year, and we could do it. Get behind it, fully funded. So, okay, make it zero. Councilor Valentin. No. Councilor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilor Bartley's a yes. Councilor Roman?
Yes.
Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Okay, we've decided to make that zero for emergency shelter resources. Okay, Beach Street Dingle lighting. I know it's a zero. I'm gonna make a motion that we fund it at $30,000.
Second.
Just under discussion, very briefly, that area is in between Beach and Crozier. It's become a bit of a, I don't know, what can we say? There've been some issues there. There's been some assaults, and there's been some other criminal activity. There was also, it was kind of being used as a, where people kind of slept out at night, that sort of thing. And so I reached out to the DPW director and Holyoke Gas and Electric. Holyoke Gas and Electric said to shine lights down there and to clean out that area permanently, it would be a $30,000 cost. And I said, well, if that's what it is, that's what it is. I had no idea, but that was from HG&E. So, that was, and I never got a chance to go to the CAC, but maybe it would have made a difference, maybe not, but that's really where this was, started with, discussions I've had with, the gas and electric and with, DPW, so that's my pitch. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, go the other way. Council Tallman?
Yes.
Council Roman?
Yes.
Council Bartley is a yes. Council Sullivan?
No?
Council Valentin?
No.
Okay, motion carries, be $30,000 for, to put lights in the dingle. Valley Arena Park,
Motion to allocate 150,000?
Second?
on discussion?
Following the CAC and the recommendation.
Well, Alicia, this is a very exciting project. What's happening with the Valley Arena Park?
So the project isn't being run out of our office, but it's my understanding that the city has received a park grant from the state to do remediation and park improvements. And as you all know, the state requires local match, and so in this proposal, CDBG is to be considered the local match.
Councilor Roman?
Yes, I want to advocate this project because clearly I've had a heavy hand, and I'd like to inform my colleagues that this actually all started because of Morgan School for me. Morgan School students, I met with my very first year in office every other Thursday for a year. They're 8th graders that are now sophomores. Started getting me together around Valley Arena Park. We got to go in the Nueva Archives. We found out the history of Rashi Marciano and the whole Valley Arena itself and how it was originally an HG&E gas storage facility way back in the day. That's how I found out that the Turn Hall was actually the Germanic Gymnastics Society, which I didn't know, and Kelly's Lobster Shop because of Councilor McGivern. So this has been a really cool history project for me personally, but also to see the community and neighborhood. The city has, because of the park grant, they have a designer in place. The Morgan School students will be doing a public meeting, a spaghetti dinner coming up soon to get feedback from the community on the design and the engagement and concept. There was very extensive testing, mass DEPs involved. It's been a really great process. So in this specific aspect, I highlight the CAC and OCD's office for committing to this, and I would love for us to fully fund this because it's well worth it. And Valley Arena needs our love. It needs our love, and the city did a really good job of cleaning up the bushes all along the chain link fence, really cleaning up that area, and the neighborhood association, specifically Carmen Jerry, always clean up that park every year for our community cleanup day. So I would encourage the members to support it.
Yeah, I'm going to support it too. This is a really legendary part of Holyoke that's kind of, maybe it can come back to life. And I really appreciate the enthusiasm and everybody at CAC getting behind it, and OCD. I guess the mayor had his reasons, but maybe some advocacy would go a long way to sort of change his opinion on that. So, okay, why don't we just a voice vote on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, Springdale Park sidewalk and lighting.
Motion to approve at $0. We can make a discussion.
Sure, on discussion, Councilor Roman?
I know we've been pushing it. Everyone's been kind of confused. This actually came from the people of that neighborhood. And so I'm really excited, and that's why we get into our next section around Parks and Rec. I'm excited about the rehab design phase and a full renovation and rehab. And speaking with Terry Shepard, that whole park is a little bit dark at night, and so there's a lot of residents who live next there, and they try to walk their dogs, and there is a lot of same thing, fun activity that happens late night, and it's a beautiful park, and we're trying to keep it clean, and so I'm excited. I know that I think as part of a larger rehab design, they can take all this into account, so I'm in support of it being at $0 because I'm sure that all of that will be thought of in that process. And I would like to say that I think it's Mass Parks, they're doing the whole green space conversation right now, and I know that I've been to a few of those meetings, and I really loved hearing that the city, when it's doing its green space plan, is wanting to highlight Springdale as one of the feature parks of the city. So it's like community field, and then when you come off of 391, it's Springdale Park, like that is the park, and hopefully in the future seeing like a handicap play space or a handicap accessible playground. So I just wanted to acknowledge to you all that that's where that came from, and I thank you at least for considering it.
Yeah, that really is, it really is one of the gems of Holyoke for sure. So hopefully something else can be done. I mean, there aren't too many more parks that are more used than Springdale. I don't really think maybe Crozier, but they'd be like neck and neck, I think. So, okay. Clever. Okay, on the motion to make it 0, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay.
Motion to approve security cameras at $0?
Second.
Yeah, just on discussion, I take it they brought this up because of the criminal activity that happened last year with, and what else can we do?
So the library has been, they had some vandalism of the new benches outside the library.
They're all smashed, right? All the glass was smashed.
And they're also, there has been ongoing issues with some illegal activity in the adjacent library park around the library. So that's where Maria's request came from.
Yeah, okay, so CAC's position is it premature or something, or what's the?
Well, that, for the police to step up surveillance around the area, and that the amount of damage that was done was in the several $1,000s. To spend $34,000, it's just cheaper to repair the benches. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Aye. All right, so that one 0 is all unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve $50,000 for Springdale Park rehab, $16,500 for Springdale Park, and I would like to include, I'll just do those two for starters.
I'll second that. Under discussion?
Yep.
Councilor Sullivan?
Could you say that again?
So it's $50,000 for Springdale Park Rehab Phase 1 and $16,500 for Springdale Park Baseball Field. I'm sorry, Zeta? I'm sorry.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, you can't do the scoreboard at 15.
I can do it at 12. That's where I'm going.
Councilor Sullivan?
Can we finish the one we got before we start on the scoreboard?
Sure. So on the motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. So we put $50,000 for Springdale Park Rehab Phase 1 and $16,500 for Springdale Park Baseball Field. And that leaves $12,000? Did I hear that right? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion if, knowing that we can't do it without the full 15.
If I may clarify the Dean Tech scoreboard, that's for installation only. The scoreboard is already been purchased by an outside entity. So the scoreboard is here. This was strictly the dollars to install it.
So if we don't give them the money, they're just gonna sit on a scoreboard that's not gonna go up?
If the scoreboard, I think, has been around for a little while now, and it was purchased through a private fundraising campaign. I will tell you the reason that OCD did not recommend funding it, because we were concerned about the future of Dean Tech and the actual use of that field and the scoreboard and the installation, and there's, and some of the other priorities. It's an expensive installation. I'm not sure that they could do it with less than 15. We certainly, if you wanted to recommend 12, we could try to make it work, but there's a couple of factors. They need a crane. It has to have very deep concrete sonotubes to put it in, and because it's going to be a CDBG construction project over $2,000, it does require the payment of Davis-Bacon federal prevailing wages, which can drive up the construction costs. So that's why, although 15,000, you'd think you're getting a scoreboard, you're not. The scoreboard is already here. You're getting just installation.
Like I said, I'm not making a proposal for that then, but I still think it's a disservice I can tell you with or without Dean Tech having a sports team, we lost the Miracle League, and they're now in Springfield because of lack of a scoreboard. We have flag football that happens there. As the ward counselor, that sports complex is used all the time. And so I think it's a huge disservice that we have one, and and I'll make a pitch then to the mayor and hopefully the Office of OCD in the future for reallocation funds. We should get that up. Like that to me is a huge disservice to the whole city. Talk about underutilized parks and projects, and we have a scoreboard sitting there that's not going to go up. I mean, so then with that, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to then make a motion to put the $12,000. Believe it or not, I would like to make the recommendation towards Spark, their micro enterprise grant. I know it's not what they requested. I really think in seeing the Spark program, I have no skin in their game, just seeing what the chamber does, what those Spark graduates do, and seeing all these new entrepreneurs in the city start their businesses, I think that that'd be a good investment in money.
Okay, is there a second for that? I don't hear a second for it.
Where is Spark on?
It's on the next page.
Economic development.
Well, we have $12,000. What's the pleasure?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I think we need that 15,000 to put that on there. So I was thinking about taking 3,000, possibly from the Springdale Park Rehab Phase 1. They asked for 250, and we're giving them 50. So if we make that 47,000, I think that will get the scoreboard up with the, if it's here, we have to put it up. So I'm thinking about taking just 3,000 from Springdale Park and putting it towards, giving the full 15,000 for the scoreboard.
I'll
The
second
Dean
that.
Tech.
I'll second that. Under discussion? Councilor Mann?
Can I just offer a friendly amendment, just because, CAC did, I would actually hope, it's an easier to do it from NIP, because it's 163. If you just leave the neighborhood improvement grant at 160, 122, and then you leave it an even 50 for Springdale rehab, and then it brings it up to the 15, if I could just offer that friendly amendment, if that's okay. So from the NIP, it's 163. If you just make it an even 160, it's still less than what they requested, but it's just an easier place to cut.
I'd still be opposed to it. This scoreboard, the money for it was raised by an outside group and just handed over to us. Here, go ahead and install it. I'm not sure the price of the scoreboard, but I'm telling you right now, the installation cost is probably triple or quadruple the cost of the scoreboard. And it's just not going to get used that much. It's, you think, what, for 6 months or less out of the year? And how many events do take place on that field where they're going to use a scoreboard and not knowing the future of the property? It just seems we have better places to put the money right now.
Councilor Mann?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good compromise, like you're saying, Councilor Tallman, and get it up, to just get the field up. And I can tell you, it's used more than just 6 months of the year. They're out there every Friday, Saturday night, whether it's the Flag Football League, whether it's whatever, that field is used. That field is used, so.
It's definitely used.
I want to dispel any
Yeah,
rumors
I'll
that
say
that
that,
field's not
'cause-
used.
I'll say that it may not be used by Dean Tech, but it's,
Now Holyoke High School South.
yeah.
No, my thing is if the group raised the money to have that, and we're not going to put it up, I mean, it feels a disservice to the people that raised the money, whether it's 3,000 or 4,000 to get the scoreboard. I mean, I think it should be put up, and I don't go from taking it, like I said, I don't want to take any more from the neighborhood improvement program. That's important. I don't think $3,000 from 50,000 is a big loss from Springdale Park. That's why I wanted to use it right in that area for, that ward. I don't think it'll be hurt, so.
I'm with it. Okay, I'm good with that. I agree. On the motion,
On the motion,
47.
47 for Springdale.
47 for Springdale
Yeah, and then.
and 15 to Councilor Tallman,
Yes.
Councilor Mann,
Yes.
Councilor Bartley, yes. Councilor Sullivan?
No.
Councilor Valentin? No. Motion carries. So Springdale Park will be 47. Dean Tech scoreboard install will be 15,000. Is that idea, where are we in the budget? Okay, so Zeta, our finance expert, said that we have fully allocated the non-public service proposals.
So can we make a motion, because obviously there's no additional funds anyways, to take the items under infrastructure, economic development, and historic preservation, which I'm sorry, we already did the sidewalks. So the remaining items, which are at 0 right now, to leave it at 0.
Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. That's a good motion, Councilor Valentin, appreciate that. Makes it clear. Okay. Alicia, should we head to it now? Okay, all right. Boy, this is the area where it usually gets a little more,
Lively.
yeah, lively. Thank you, Councilor Valentin. I gotta be frank, they're all good. I'm gonna support anything that comes along here, so that's my take, but we can go, we can just, we don't want to just go down it one at a time? I think we should, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Camp for Kids.
Motion to allocate $0.
Second?
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Targeted literacy program. Have a motion, please?
Motion to allocate $4,230.
Second?
Under discussion? Hearing none, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4230.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from Girls Inc. I'm on their board of directors.
Okay, so Councilor Valentin will not be voting on Girls Inc. because she's on our board of directors, so we'll just note that in the minutes.
I make a motion to approve at 9,000 or 10,000. Sorry.
For 10,000. The motion fails for lack of second.
Make a motion to approve at 15,000?
Second.
Under discussion? Councilor Mann?
I'm really just looking at the mayor's recommendation and just looking at the CAC and just looking at the mayor's, there's a few programs that the CAC did not fund that I would like to see funded, and if we approve at all the CAC amounts at high amounts, we're not gonna be able to spread the love. And again, so I know they got 9,000 last year. I think this is, 1,000 more. What did they get approved for the year before? Do you know? In the mic, Alicia, sorry. In the mic.
So Girls Inc. in FY16 received $10,000.
So I think it's in line with what they usually traditionally get for funding, and, unless there's something extenuating where they doubled or tripled the amount of registrants, I think that it's in line with what we give them, it's a fair allocation, and it's back up to the 10,000 where they're at, so that's just my argument for it.
Okay. You want to make a counter argument, Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, so the CAC looked at the success and the background in each one of these programs, and each of them were hugely successful, and it was also driven by the number of youths that were supported in the program. So if you look, and Alicia, if you can shout out at any time, the number that participated in the Girls Incorporated Youth Program.
Sure. Let me preface anything around accomplishments with this statement. Mm-hmm. One of the struggles that our agencies face, our public service agencies, is the volume of paperwork that it takes to manage their CDBG funds and their grant awards. So over the last 2 years, Jen and Zaida and I have worked very hard to figure out a way to make this all a lot easier for our agencies while also maintaining the standards that HUD requires. And so this year, for the first time, what we've done is we have aligned the final awards to the agency with the actual cost per client that they're serving. So in the proposal, if the agency reported that it cost $100 to serve a client and they got a grant award of $200, we said to the agency, when you have completely served 2 clients, we will pay you. So when I tell you, for instance, that Girls Inc. by contract was supposed to serve 2 people, they by contract were supposed to serve 2, and they have served 2. They're done with us. And I want to say that because I don't want you to think that Girls Inc. is getting money and they're only serving 2 people. It has to do with our contract set up with them. You know, all of these agencies are serving thousands of people. We do have agencies that have not served anyone as of tonight. So,
Is that right?
So the proposed program for Girls Inc. will service 72 clients.
that would be the proposal that they have in their book. But remember, that's if they're fully funded at the level that they've requested. And so when I say for this current year, they, by contract with us and the level of funding they got, they were able to serve 2 girls for a complete duration of whatever the programming is. By contract, they were to serve 2, and they have served 2, and we've closed the books with them.
Tremont?
So just to clarify again, so you're saying that 10,000 or 9,000 helps us service 2 girls, correct?
We have to look and see what their cost per child
Cost
is
per
in their
child
book.
is- okay.
Yeah.
But they've completed that, okay.
Yep.
And then that's my other statement, like, just by looking based off of that paper to see what they serve and don't serve isn't fair at all. And I agree with Alicia, and that's why, with all due respect to the CAC, to just say, we vetted or fully looked. I know agencies that serve way more than the number that they put in, or they do multiple sessions of it throughout the year. So that's not an accurate descriptor. And so this is why, and this is exactly why, like I said, for example, the Youth Commission doesn't have a home this year. The Youth Commission for years was with an agency, and they were with another agency before then. How are we to say that those kids get $0 when they do an amazing job? We all show up to their debates. We all show up to their amazing, they just did a whole youth map for the whole city, mapping out for the entire city of Holyoke what the youth vision of the city is, and the recommendation is $0. So I would say, again, 10,000 is fair. It's not the 15. It's a little bit higher than what the mayor recommended. It's higher than what we gave them last year by 1,000. And we're able to line by line explore these programs and hear from you also. Did they submit their reporting on time? Did they give us what they were supposed to? So I would encourage my colleagues to approve it at 10.
Okay, well, we have a motion right now, seconded to approve it at 15. On the motion, Councilor Valentin. I'm abstaining. You did, I apologize, you're right, you did abstain. Councilor Valentin abstains, my bad. Councilor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilor Bartley's a no. Councilor Oman.
No.
Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Motion fails. Got another one?
Motion to approve at $12,000.
I'll second. On the motion, Councilor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilor Bartley's a yes. Councilor Oman.
Yes.
Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Motion carries, 12,000.
Motion to approve Greater Holyoke YMCA at $10,000.
I'll second that.
Same reasons as stated before.
Yeah, just try to spread out a little bit. Councilor Sullivan?
Alicia, could you give us a background on the YMCA,
So by contract this year, they are proposing to serve 6. They actually reported to us that with those dollars, they were able to serve 7, and they are complete with us.
So they served 7 with the 9,000 we gave them. And they wanted 6 with the 12,000 at the fully funded.
So when I say what they proposed, that's at the contract amount, and the contract amount is what was awarded. So
Last year.
they were awarded $9,000 for $9,000. They were going to serve 6 children. They actually reported demographics for us for 7 children.
Oh, perfect, okay.
And just to be very clear, there are going to be agencies that if you ask me, I'm going to say that they haven't served anyone. Some agencies, they haven't served anyone because they have a particular program that isn't scheduled to start until, let's say, May. It might be a one-shot deal. Some of our agencies haven't served because they may be struggling, and so we're working with those agencies to serve. But I have to say, an agency wouldn't be on this list with us and have a contract with us, or have submitted an application if they were bad. But there are agencies, frankly, that do the work, that get the reporting, and there are agencies that are struggling, so.
Thank you.
So the motion's 10?
Motion's 10. I don't know if we want to do a voice vote on this one, but, Counselor,
No,
but he made a motion for
10
10.
is seconded.
Yeah, motion for 10.
12 was for the one before it,
Yeah,
Alicia.
Counselor Tomlin,
For,
10,
10,000.
no.
Counselor Mann,
yes.
Counselor Bartley's a yes. Counselor Sullivan,
No.
Counselor Valentin,
Yes.
motion carries.
Yep.
10. So that's 10,000.
Motion to approve the homework house at $10,000.
I'll second that.
Under discussion?
It's just a midway point. Again, the CAC did 13, the mayor did super low at 5. I think 10's a good compromise, and it's only 3,000 less than what they asked. But it's also way higher. It's 5,000 more than they received last year in our allocation. So I think we're giving them double the amount from last year, and still allows us some wiggle room to spend, or to allocate in other locations.
Yeah, I really hope we can support this at 10,000, double it. But you'd like to do more for homework house because there's,
See at the end if there's more and put it towards them.
yeah, they do a lot, but yeah, I certainly support the motion. Okay, Counselor Tallman,
Or,
10,000 for homework house.
can I make a statement first?
Oh, sure, yeah, discussion, yeah, of course, yeah.
No, I'm looking at, and I know they got 5,000 last year, and I think it's a great program. I know several of the people that are involved with that program, the reading program, especially for kids in neighborhoods that really need the help. And I'm looking at OCD and CAC for the 13,000. I really strongly endorse the 13,000. It can be utilized in a really good manner. It's really helping a lot of kids in that neighborhood. So I'm going to go with the 13,000.
Okay, so, do you want to make an amendment to the motion?
I'll make an amendment to make it 13,000.
Second?
Okay, that's been seconded. So that one's before us, now it's 13,000 is before us, so, we'll take a vote. Counselor Tallman,
Yes.
Counselor Roman,
No.
Counselor Bartley's a no, Counselor Sullivan's,
Yes.
Counselor Valentin?
No.
Counselor Valentin, no, motion fails.
On the main motion.
On the main motion,
Can I just make a comment, Mr. President?
sure.
And like I said, and I know we go through this exercise every year, but it's fun. If there's any leftover in this category, we can always go back and reallocate and add more. So I would encourage my colleagues for 10 for now. And if we really love that project, it's happened to us before, where we can go back and add the extra 3 at the end if we see that we have more. So on the motion for me.
Anyone else?
Yep. No, I'm
Oh,
fine.
Counselor Valentin?
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
Counselor Bartley's a yes, Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
All right, 10,000 for homework house, summer readers and leaders. Office of Planning and Economic Development Youth Commission.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to just approve. I know it's going to sound like a little bit, but I think any amount helps. $3,000 for the youth commissioners.
Is there a second to that?
Second that.
Counselor Tallman seconds it. On discussion?
Again, like I said, I know the youth commission's been, they recently just left the agency. That was their fiscal agent for a while. I just see the tremendous work these young people do, the leadership development work. They meet in these chambers. They really build good leaders. It's not the full 15 they wanted. I just would like to see what they do with the funds, hear back, and then next year they come back again for another proposal. I think it's us, seeding into them, and hopefully they get a little bit stabilized with this, find another fiscal agent, and then, come back to us next year. But I still think it's us showing them the city of Holyoke has your back in this time of transition. And like I said, the kids do an amazing youth plan. How many youth are in the program? I think there's about
15 according to the proposal.
15 in the proposal, and we've seen the graduates. We've talked to them. They do an amazing job, and so I think 3 is more than sufficient to start.
All right, with that, we'll take a vote. Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Counselor Bartley's a no. Counselor Sullivan?
No,
Counselor Valentin?
No.
Okay, motion fails. I'm going to say we just take the CAC vote at 0. That's my motion.
second,
On the motion, Counselor Valentin?
No.
Counselor
I'm
Sullivan?
sorry. Yes. My bad. Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, so this is to,
follow the CAC
to follow CAC recommendation
recommendation.
at 0.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Valentin's a yes. Counselor Sullivan?
yes,
Counselor Bartley's a yes. Counselor Roman?
No.
Counselor Tallman? Motion carries. So that's 0 for Youth Commission. Tech writing program. It's an old favorite.
Motion to allocate $0.
second,
On discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, Counselor Valentin?
Yes.
Counselor Tallman?
No.
Counselor Sullivan?
yes,
Counselor Roman?
No.
Counselor Bartley's a no. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the mayor's recommendation of $2,000. Yeah, this is just one of those programs I think we just, it's just a part of the city, really. On the motion, Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Counselor Valentin?
No.
Counselor Sullivan?
no,
Counselor Bartley's a yes. 2,000. West Mass Elder Care, Elder Disabled Meals Program.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to actually make a motion to approve this at 7,500.
A second for discussion. Counselor Valentin? I mean, Counselor Roman? Gosh, I mean, are we getting? No, don't go there.
Alicia,
No, that's a little unfair.
No, yeah.
I think that's a little unfair.
People think we're siblings.
Yeah.
If I could, Mr. Chairman. Alicia, the only
wow.
reason why I'm advocating for half of the allocation is I know that the state, we're talking about a large influx of migrants and so on and so forth, but I already know, for example, that the West Mass Elder Care from the Boston Foundation received money, so does Providence Ministries at the tune of $35,000, $40,000. The Welcome Centers have each received $60,000 plus an additional $40,000. So there's already a large influx of allocation of monies above and beyond what these centers are experiencing, including the Western Mass Food Bank. So I just know that there's already an increase in allocation of fundings from outside private sources, and I know in the governor's budget, he's allocating even more money. So this, to me, is more than what they got last year. It's still showing the city that we're putting a little bit more, but in my opinion, I'd like to see what these agencies do with those out. It's my biggest call out personally on Facebook, and even here as a counselor. I want to see what they're doing with those private allocated dollars before we commit a full large amount in CBDG funds, because they are getting funding from outside sources. So, that's just my opinion. It's still more than what they got last year, way more than what they got last year. And so I'd like to see what they do with the funds. But I just wanted to know how many, did they complete their budgeting on time and their reporting, and how many clients did they serve? And
So by contract with us, they were due to serve 3. They have served 3.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion, Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, and I know this is a well-deserved program, but I'm just looking at the award last year of $4,000, and they're asking for $25,000. And what is the reasoning why the Community Development Office went along with the $25,000?
In conversations with them, when they came in the office and dropped off this year's paperwork, and I believe this was even before they submitted their proposal, they expressed concern about the state budget and state budget cuts, as well as we're constantly in communication with some of our agencies about what are you seeing in the community, what do you need, what are your needs, what are your assessments, and we're hearing feedback that there's more and more elders and disabled folks in need of Meals on Wheels. And like I said, we're focusing on those basic human needs, food, shelter, education. And so that's where it came from.
The only reason I say that is it just seems like a really high increase from 4,000 to 25,000 from what they used. And I know there's a need for it, and I know it, especially in our community, but it just seems like a really, really big increase compared to some of the other programs that maybe went up 3,000, 4,000 to go up 21,000. It just stood out to me, you know.
Councilor Sullivan?
Through the chair to answer, and you can correct me as usual when I'm wrong, Alicia. Okay, in fiscal year 17, they requested a lot more than $4,000. I believe the request was $20,000 or $25,000, which got slashed last year
To 4,000.
also. And I can tell you, speaking for the CAC, everybody's just shocked that we're cutting on a Meals on Wheels program for the disabled and elderly, that we're slashing back on that and spending some money on some of the other things that we spend.
Okay.
Councilor Munn?
I'll let Councilman,
Oh,
she had her hand up before me.
Sure, Councilor, I didn't see
Thank
it.
you.
Sorry, Councilor Melton.
Just as a refresher regarding the proposal itself, they're saying their request is 25, the total activity cost is $2.8 million. So obviously 25 is a drop in the bucket for that. But just to give us an idea in terms of the conversation, this is about, their indicator of success, their goal is to deliver 3,430 meals by June 30, 2019. So, if we put that into perspective in terms of the number that would be impacted, I think it's something important to recognize, and because of that, I'll be supporting 15,000.
Councilor Munn?
Like I said, and I heard my colleague saying that he was shocked that the CAC said we'd slash. We're increasing no matter what tonight. So I mean, we're voting to support an increase irregardless. So it's not a slash, it's an increase. And like I said, I know West Mass Elder Care, they do a great job. We want to support. It's not that we can, but exactly that. When we have other fine, amazing organizations that as well need it, you can't compare apples to oranges. So it's not fair to pit West Mass Elder Care against the Equestrian Program or the Youth Commission. That's not the right tactic that we should be taking in this body, I believe, or any of our conversations. I think it's fair at 7,500. Again, I would support that. Because again, we do have to vote to allocate in other areas that the CAC voted no dollars, and I want to take each case by case on their merit, but also to look at where they do with this money this year. I think they did a great job last year. I think that that's great to increase. And again, I know that with those basic same needs and talking about the increase in those numbers, we have seen the private sector and private donors, come in on those levels. So I would still encourage my colleagues to approve this year. And again, same thing next year. They come back with 25,000. We gave them the 7,500. They could prove and show that the numbers went through the roof again. We can come back and give them the 15 or even 25 next year. So.
Yeah, these are all worthy programs. I think that making a $15,000 allocation for one, they all have equal merit in my book. I just think we have to sort of temper some of it and try to spread the wealth as best we can. That's how I look at it. So, I'm just looking to compromise somewhere between 4,000 and 15,000 would be my. So I'm a bit warm to just anywhere in between there. So 7 is on the table. So we'll take a vote. So Councilor Valentin.
On the 7,500?
Well, I'm sorry, I thought it was 7,500, I'm sorry,
No.
7,500, no, okay, Counselor Sullivan.
No.
Counselor Bartley's a yes, Counselor Roman. Counselor Tallman. No. Counselor Tallman's a no, motion fails.
Motion to allocate 15,000.
Second.
Say something.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to make a motion, but go ahead.
That's my second for 15,000. On the motion, Counselor Valentin.
Yes.
I have an
Oh,
amendment.
Counselor Roman.
I'd actually like to offer an amendment to bring it to $10,000.
Amendment fails. Okay, Counselor Valentin,
15,000?
15,000.
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan, yes, Counselor Bartley's a no, Counselor Roman.
No.
Counselor Tallman.
Yes.
Okay, 15,000. All righty. Care Center Working for the Future.
Making a motion to fund at 7,500.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
7,500 for Care Center. Career Point Skills Development Classes.
Make a motion to approve at $5,000.
I'll second for discussion. Go ahead, Councilor Mann.
We funded them at $10,000 last year, and I can tell you, talk about servicing the community, how many Latino people or people in poverty or individuals who need go to Career Point for their skills development classes, and they're interviewing, and again, I see Alicia shaking her head, no, maybe they didn't get it on the reporting time, but I could tell you, I brought homeless people there who have used their career skills development classes, so maybe they didn't get it in on time, maybe they didn't run it on time, but like we've said, I know these programs that run it year-round that might not qualify for this reporting time that use this service, so I think it's a disservice to cut it completely, and I just think we should continue to support it. And I just know firsthand, in full transparency, my mother just left one of their skills careers classes, and so she was in a class of 10. So I'm not sure, maybe it's the timing or when they're submitting their documentation. So I'd love to hear from you, Alicia, because I see a resounding head shake no. What's going on over there and with Career Point?
So, Career Point was funded this year through the Chamber of Commerce, so that's why I was sort of shaking my head, because they're not currently under contract with us, Career Point itself. But the Spark Micro Enterprise classes that were to be run through Career Point by the Chamber have not launched. So they have not served anyone this year.
So the skills development class is for Spark program people?
Yes,
So it's not for the public?
it is not,
Okay,
It's described in the proposal.
okay,
yes.
okay.
I fully agree if it's, if it's the general type stuff, but I believe they're still, last year the proposal came in through the chamber as being offered at Career Point. This year it came in through Career Point,
Being
but,
offered there. Okay.
yeah, but this year's allocation, this year's money, it's not up and
I
running.
withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. On the main motion.
Second.
To a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll fund that at 0 for a Career Point. Community Ed Project GED Prep Class in Spanish.
Motion to fund at 15,000.
Second?
Under discussion? Hearing none. Council Tomlin?
Yeah, just a question, and I know that's a very worthwhile program and project, but I just wondered why the OCD funded it. Nothing. If there's anybody being served, is it up and running? Did not report on time?
So CEP is currently under contract with us for 10, and as of today, we have no reporting from them on anyone served. Yeah, and let me just say too, some of the agencies are struggling to meet the benchmarks because we're only paying when people actually finish a class. Because what we were running into is agencies that were saying, oh, we're offering all these great classes, and then when we delve deeper into it, we find out that, yeah, you're offering all these great classes, and it looks like you're serving all these people, but nobody's graduating, nobody's completing their classes, people aren't finishing. And so by contract with us, we only pay if your students finish. We're not going to pay you to pay your director and keep the lights on if your students aren't actually graduating. And so that's new this year. We used to just pay the invoices when they came in, but now we're really pushing agencies that if you're going to use CDBG funding, the people that you're serving have to finish your program. And so CEP, by contract with us, is due for 10, but we don't have any demographics. So to me, that says they don't have 10 people that have graduated yet. They have until June 30th.
Okay, do we expect them to, was this anticipated we wouldn't get a result until June 30th, or are we?
No, I mean, obviously, when we fund, we want to keep the money rolling out the door, and the agencies want to keep getting paid, but we're not going to be able to keep paying agencies who don't produce. And so the documentation has not come into our office yet. Does that mean that 10 people haven't graduated? I can't say that. I can't say that that speaks to the efficiency of the organization of the programming. What it says is, as of today, we don't have the documents that show 10 people have graduated. If they had, I'm pretty sure the agencies would have already submitted because we pay them as soon as they submit. So I can't imagine these agencies are running on a shoestring.
Councilor Mann?
We funded them the year before, correct?
They're a regularly funded agency.
So the year before and the year before, did they submit the documentation afterwards?
So they don't get paid unless they submit their documentation.
I understand
Their contracts expire on June 30th. I don't believe, have ever pulled any money back from them. Most of the agencies, they use the money they're allocated at some point.
So exactly that's my point. So before June 30th, they have submitted every year to get paid out for their contract.
Yes, except that this year is the first year that we're only paying if people complete the class. So we'll have to wait and see what June 30th brings.
And so that's why for me in that process, it's like the apple before the cart, because I know CEP well, I know Enlace de Familias well, which I saw that again, I know we're jumping the gun, but that was recommended 0. I saw CAC did 0. I know for a fact they graduate people every year and they go through those cohorts. So for me, in that process, it's just my opinion as a city councilor, it's almost unfair then, because if this year's the new way you're doing that, we're not going to be around by June 30th while we're going through this process. So if they do graduate, even if it's 5, we won't really know if they've met the metrics until after they submit, which I love your new target of really ensuring that they're doing it. I'm not saying that that's a wrong method. However, when we're sitting here looking into do we fund them? If you sit and say, well, we have 0 because they haven't submitted yet, but they still have till June 30th, that's almost a 3-month window before they have that deadline. So it's not truly fair, because I do know the new ED of CEP was just saying that they have a cohort going on, and it's a brand new ED, and she's amazing, and she's doing great work. And I do know that they have their classes full. So I don't know, maybe we have to balance that out. Whereas I think when you come in next year, to let us know, because maybe this is going to happen the same thing next March, where at that point for March, they didn't submit on time. But what I'm interested in is if this year, before March 30th, they submit their graduates for this funding cycle, because then that'll tell me if they did it or didn't do it.
So we're happy to provide you an update, as of June 30th, what's gone on. However, the funding was in place for July 1st. And so if someone is due to serve 6 or 10 people, and we're now at March 1st, and we have no reporting from them, we start to get concerned. Because for all of these agencies, they've been running programming since last year. Now, for instance, HAP we know is a once a year class. And that class, they've said to us, our class isn't going to start until May. We won't be able to report to you until June. All of these other folks have been running classes right along. So
I will say yes, but with all due respect, for example, Enlace, they have for years, because I know Betty's only been submitting for Nurturing Fathers for the last 3 or 4. I know, and I used to work there. They will have one that's paid for by the state that they have to do first, or they'll have one that's paid for by X entity that they have to do second. And so, even for CEP, it's just, I think unless you know the intricacies of each agency, it's kind of still unfair for us to say, well, these agencies do it all the time. They could easily just submit us that report. Well, not really if they're under state contract or another contract that says, this is the time frame that we're paying you for that cycle, and that specific cycle has to come to us first. So, like I said, I agree. I would love the update in June, because I think that's a better assessment when the CAC meets and when we meet as a body to know which program has in fact graduated, because that's exactly what I want to know. So thank you, Mr. Pierre. Sorry for the long question.
I would say, Councilor Mann, I have a feeling that I could list probably 30-40% of these agencies, and they were a former employer of yours. I'm
the Olivia Pope of nonprofits.
I have a funny feeling about that. Councilor Tallman first, and Councilor Valentin.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation on that, and I understand that the reporting is important, and if they're getting things done, you want to make sure that you're giving them funding they're going to produce. Now, if there's something funded, let's say $10,000, in this until the end of the year and they show no graduates, what happens to that $10,000?
We're not releasing any money. So the agency.
Stays there?
The money would come back into the general pool of what we call unprogrammed funds and be available for other activities.
Within that public service, not
Anything.
anything?
We have a very specific contract with agencies for a very specific program. So they don't then get to come back in and say, we're going to amend the contract and we're going to try this or do that. It's money, that money is stripped away and goes back into the pool of extra CDBG funds.
And that could be put anywhere?
It could be put anywhere.
Okay.
And so what we usually do is we usually have a running pool of unprogrammed funds that get either allocated through a reprogramming process, either is presented on this spreadsheet during this time period where we say to you, we have an extra 100,000, or when we have project overruns, we can add a little bit of money. So if we're doing, a construction project and there's a change order, we have a little bit of money there that we can play with. But we are not paying unless agencies, and we never have, unless agencies do the proper reporting and meet the criteria that are laid out in the contracts.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a bit more comfortable. So if we fund it, whatever we fund, 8,000, 10,000, that money's going to be utilized somewhere if it's not produced in graduates. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Valentin?
Thank you. So perhaps just from having this conversation, Alicia, a recommendation or a suggestion that I would make would be that kind of for our own process, maybe there's an opportunity to request like mid-year reports or, something, because I know that, and if you do that already, let us know for sure. But I think, when we look at the year from July to June, it's hard to kind of make these decisions tonight based on the information that we're given. But if there is such thing as like midterm reports, maybe that's something that this committee should have access to before the decisions are made.
So we do require, when we changed all this up, we made sure that so all of the agencies, when they get funded, they come to a training with us. So if they're awarded funds, we have a mandatory training for our public services. A representative from their agency must come to one of our trainings. If they don't attend, they don't get the grants. We don't sign the contract with them. At that training, we make it very clear that CDBG dollars are to be the first used in your programming, regardless of your other contractual obligations, because we're under an obligation with HUD to spend the money. If we don't spend the money as a city, HUD will come and take it away. So that's number one. And then number two, they know, these agencies, that we're going to report to the CAC, to the mayor, to you all on what they're doing. They have a manual that they have to follow, and these kinds of protocols are laid out in their manual. I'm happy to reiterate it again at this year's mandatory public service training. But the feeling in-house from staff is, if you're in March and you haven't reported to us, which means you also haven't drawn any of your funds, then how critical are CDBG funds to the operations of your agency? We have so many agencies in this city with so many needs. I would think that people should be scrambling to our door requesting reimbursements. And for some folks, they're just not. And I really think that it speaks to the need and driving home funding agencies that are able to turn these dollars over and show a commitment. I will say, to be fair, this is the first year we're only paying for graduates. We'll see how it plays out. And like I said, I'm happy to report back to you in June. That was a significant change for our agencies. A lot of them are like, wait a minute, we rely on you to keep the lights on. Well, we're not here to fund you to keep the lights on. We're here to improve the community. And our benchmarks for improving the community are how many people are getting jobs through your agency, how many people are graduating with their GEDs, how many young men are graduating from parenting classes. If you can't say to me, Alicia, I've got 6 young men from Holyoke that have graduated from my class, then you probably shouldn't be getting CDBG dollars. It might not be a good source of funding for you. It's a real shift in the dynamic. We've seen it starting at the federal level. It has trickled down to us. We are not here to keep your lights on. We are here to service the community and improve the lives of our residents. And that's the philosophy that we, staff, and with the mayor's, full knowledge, and the CAC have really tried to push home this year. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that was really helpful. I appreciate that.
Can I make a motion on that one?
There's already a motion.
There's a
Was
motion
it-
for the 15.
We have a motion for
Okay,
15.
that's right.
So we have, I just on discussion, I'm not gonna support the 15. I would support a 13, just to see if we could use $2,000 somewhere else, because the mayor, that's where the mayor's going with it, so I kinda wanna support the mayor. I do wanna support the mayor on his recommendation, so that's,
I'll accept that.
I'll accept,
As a
I'll
friendly
second,
amendment.
okay,
Right?
okay, as a friend, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so Councilor Valentin made the friendly amendment, I'm gonna second that amendment. So the motion is for $13,000. I think you do a voice vote then. On the motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. So 13,000 for GED in Spanish. And LASSE, Nurturing Fathers. Ouch. Boy.
I'm gonna make a motion that we level fund it to last year to $8,000. And agree with the mayor's recommendation.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that myself. So,
And under discussion, Mr. President.
Councilor Roman.
So just to give the committee, maybe the CAC, and, you know, again, I know the public can't speak, but I do know I know Betty last year graduated graduates from our funding, because the city was invited, I was invited. I know the mayor was invited after that funding cycle. Betty and her team always does the prisoners right now, so from January, I think from November to now, they're in the prisons with the sheriff's office, and they do a cycle of nurturing fathers. And then at the beginning of the year, and that's just how it's been for the last 20 plus years. And I know Betty's only been, and then Lasse's been applying for this the last 3 or 4 years, but I do know they graduate men in the community. And I do know that I've gone to their graduations, and they just recently graduated a class, not even a couple months ago, it was on their Facebook page. They did it at Enlace. So I think the 8,000 is worth it. And again, when we're thinking about these agencies, we have to think about staffing. We have to think about their level. Like, I know at Nueva, I'm a staff of 1. I know at Betty, she's also the Welcome Center, and she's going with a lot, but she still manages to run this program. And Roy and Ephraim, they do a great job down there with this program. So I just think we should level fund it.
Sullivan?
Yeah. Again, back to you, Alicia. I'm trying to do this one from memory. Is this one of the cases where they had not spent the money from the previous cycle?
No, they spent, we got them to reimburse, to be reimbursed for the year ending last June 30th. For this year, they're under contract with us to serve 6. We have no paperwork from them as of this afternoon. Jen has been, because we're coming to the end of the fiscal year, although their contract goes until June 30th, we have to have all of their billing in probably by the end of May to meet the city's closing its books. And so Jen's been reaching out to these agencies, and we understand that we have 2 people that we'll be getting documentation for. And they're under contract for 6. So hopefully we'll see at least those 2 reports momentarily.
So they're only going to graduate 2 people maximum.
I'm not going to say that, no. They're under contract with us to serve 6 men
Yeah.
from Holyoke.
Right.
In verbal conversations, we have been told that they'll have 2 documentation to support the payment for 2 people. That leaves them 4. They may have additional classes running right now where they'll get 4 more graduates. And I will say, just in terms of OCD's recommendation not to fund, again, we're focusing on housing, food, that sort of thing. We're a strong proponent of reaching out to young men. Betty and I have had these conversations that young men in our city are one of the groups that just does not have programming. But for Nurturing Fathers, where so many of the folks that are going through that training are being either court-ordered or somehow being ordered to be there, that staff just didn't feel like it was a good use of CDBG funds where folks had to be there. It wasn't like they could go in and they could sign up. For the majority of them, could go in and sign up. They have to be there. They have to take this training. And so maybe because it's a mandatory requirement, that funding should be coming from the ordering agency, whether it be the court system or jails or that kind of thing. So, and I know it's a good program. I do. I've been to their graduation. They do an amazing job with young men. Like I said, young men are really lacking in resources in the city. And this is about not the quality of the program, not how many people have graduated necessarily, but is the CDBG the best use of funding?
Well, on that, we have a motion for 8,000, which is the mayor's recommendation. Can we take a vote? Counselor Valentin?
No.
Counselor Sullivan?
No.
Counselor Bartley's a yes. Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Motion carries 8,000.
Chairman, I'm going to abstain from the Holyoke Community College vote. I work there.
You do.
I'm not the only
Let's
one. No.
let's see if I can remember that this time, Counselor Valentin. I know you work there, but let's see if I can remember during the vote. Somebody want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to fund it at the zero. I know this proposal really well. Actually, this is the trailer right next to HCC Culinary.
Well, let's get a second. You want a second?
Second.
Okay, under discussion, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just, again, talking about the best use of dollars, and I saw the mayor did for 25,000. I was a little shocked by that, but I just think, it's a great project. I think if HCC would love to invest in this, it seems really cool. I'm excited for it. And I know Encia from the Innovation District is behind this, and I like it in concept. I'm not sure if CBDG dollars are the best for it. I still would like to see it happen. I think it's going to happen irregardless if we fund it or not. So I think that, we could use those funding in other places, but it's a great project. I'm not knocking it, but I think that, I'd like to see it done without CBDG money.
Yeah,
I think it's going to happen.
I agree. I mean, you look at the total activity costs on this, and I mean, this is basically, not saying it's half the money, but it's pretty close to half the money for it. And I mean, HCC has so many resources why do they have to come to CDBG? I mean, we appreciate everything HCC does. I mean, obviously, I'm the number one fan, or maybe 1A and 1B with Council Valentin, but I mean, come on, man, come on. I mean, it's some. All right, so there's that. All right, so on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so it's a 0 for that.
Motion to allocate $0 for Lighthouse School Art Welding Program.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 0 for that. Providence Ministries Food Works at Kate's Kitchen.
A motion to allocate $5,000.
Second.
Under discussion?
I'm just saying it's a good program. I think the community development allocated $5,000 last year. The award was $2,500, so it's an increase, and I think that's sufficient amount to allocate to them.
Yeah, it's, Pete, we've been to graduations down there. I've been to 3 of them, and, they're getting the job done as far as I can tell. One thing I haven't done, I haven't done, once they get employed by, say, the cabin or, that's a bridge too far as you're concerned, but I realize that, but it'd be nice to know how they're doing. I mean, I guess I'll talk to Chef Ralph and ask him the question, but I mean, it's really exciting going to those graduations. I have to say, there's just a lot of good feeling. This is a great program.
And this is actually one of the programs that.
Sorry about that, Mike Alicia.
I
I don't get it.
I don't know what's going on. I'll just stay over here.
Yeah.
It's one of the programs that build off of prior CDBG investments. And so you'll remember a few years ago,
Oh, yes.
CDBG paid to build out Kate's Kitchen.
Right.
And so this allocation now allows the students to take advantage of the culinary training there. One of the things that's so unique about the program is they do take folks that are coming out of prison, coming out of rehab, maybe had dropped out of school, and they start them at a very, very basic level. And then build on that so they then could enroll at the HCC Culinary Center. Because a lot of our folks are not going to be able to go right from being unemployed to HCC's culinary program. And so this is a great bridge. And they have a very high placement and employment rate afterwards, which is why OCD was encouraging further investment. And they, just to be fair to all agencies, they were going to serve one and they've served one.
Okay, so, no further discussion. The motion is for $5,000. Just a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain from Roca Holyoke. I'm on their board.
Well, you're going to compete with Councilor Leahy pretty soon for most boards, but
Motion to approve Roca at Success Center and Success Center at $0.
Second.
on the motion, all in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve HAP housing at 3,500.
Did we skip one here?
No, he allocated them all, Mike.
Yeah, we did all three.
Yeah. So we put, so as idea, so we had Roca at 0, Success Center at HPS 0 for both. Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll second that, 3,500 for the leadership program for HAP. I think that's a fair
On
amount.
discussion, yeah.
Yeah, I've attended the graduation every year. I was actually the featured speaker last year. It was amazing. They run it once a year, as, Alicia said. It's a great program. Marty Glitt and her team, she has a Vista. They're actually outreaching right now for the spring class that starts up, and yours truly will be teaching one of the classes, hopefully, if all works out. But I think it's a great program. It runs no matter what, but they really do a good job of graduating. And believe it or not, the two neighborhood association president and vice president are graduates of this program, and a lot of others in the community that I know. It's just level funding them. I know the CAC wanted 5,000, the mayor recommended 0, and OCD recommended 0, but I think this is a fair compromise in keeping them where they're at, and they do and I invite you all, they do a great graduation in June time, so.
Yeah, I'd like to go. All right, thank you for that. Councilor Tallman? Did you ever hand it? No, okay.
I'm with that, yeah.
All right. All right, the motion is for 3,500. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, so it's 3,500 for half.
Motion to approve 25,000 and 25,000 for Loretto House and Margaret's Pantry.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so 25,000 for Loretto, 25,000 for Margaret's.
Motion to approve 15,000 for domestic violence intervention at Women's Shelter Compañeras.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 15,000. Saida, how we doing on finances?
We got 13,500.
13,500.
Motion to approve $0 for the farmer's market manager.
Second.
Oh, yeah, look, this is, right, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, so OCD says 0, CAC says 0. The request came in and, the mayor fully funded it for the Holyoke Chamber of Commerce.
Can I ask a question in the discussion?
Councilor Mann.
Who is the current farmer's market manager?
The current manager is an employee of the Chamber of Commerce. It's Andre Valeda.
Isn't he also the mayor's
He
assistant?
is. City of Holyoke did receive a conflict of interest authorization from HUD.
So this is basically making his salary 30,000, right? Well, just us, because then he gets money from us and then this, right?
So say that again?
No.
How's that work?
No. So, Mr. Valeda is a part-time employee of the City of Holyoke in the mayor's office.
Yeah,
He's
no,
also,
that was-
also a part-time employee of the Chamber of Commerce.
That's why I was asking here as a council, though, not you, Alicia, but
Oh.
we in our budget have allocated how much towards his salary? Do we know? No? And so then this is separate.
Yeah, separate.
And
You have to do
so
it in
bec-
a file
Yeah.
a special
And
way.
because it was under a certain amount, we don't have to approve it. So it just gets filed with the clerk's office. Right?
Say that again, Councilor Mann? I'm not quite following.
So, yeah, because and we have this in other departments where if you work at the Wisteria Hearst in the library, you have to file a conflict of interest but what's the threshold for them having to come to us? Because we've
So-
had to approve others.
I believe the situation you're describing is when a city employee has two city positions. In this case, this is not, what you're funding here is not a city position. It is a position at the Chamber of Commerce.
So it's separate. But-
Yeah, that's separate.
And when I say conflict of interest, I'm referring to the HUD process. We are covered by our own set of conflict of interest through HUD. And so because these dollars were allocated through my office, through our office, with the mayor's approval, and this person is an employee of the city of Holyoke as well, we need to make sure that he had no influence over this process. And so we file those disclosures.
Okay,
I
thank you.
can't speak to,
Yeah, no, that's why, it wasn't you, it was more towards us question, so.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of any of that. In fact, I think we're gonna have, at next week's city council, I think we're gonna have a potential conflict of interest question as well, come up about it. I just saw a recent appointment come in my inbox about a city employee getting appointed to a retirement board, so that's gonna have to, that question's gonna have to be asked. But this is, I wasn't even aware of this, so, okay, so the gentleman in question, I don't wanna say his name, but the gentleman in question, works part-time for the mayor, so he's a city employee, and then he also works at the Chamber of Commerce as a manager of the farmer's market. That's true?
that's my understanding. I can't speak to his hours in the mayor's office, or
No,
his
I
classification.
didn't ask,
but,
yeah, but we'll, yeah, maybe we'll ask at budget time, so.
I guess, I mean.
Counselor Elton, yeah.
I don't know the details, but I mean, I do know that this gentleman has been the contact person for the farmer's market. I thought it was under the duties of being in the mayor's office. So I don't know if perhaps this is a new, this is like a, kind of like a new position or,
It was last year too, we approved it, we didn't know it was him though.
It was funded last year.
so.
Yeah, I had no idea, is his name, is the gentleman's name in the,
No, it's not, last year it wasn't either.
pourquoi?
Pourquoi? Because we don't ask agencies to name their employees. We don't ask that of any agencies, and so we identify conflicts by reviewing, current payroll records, upcoming contracts, that kind of thing. But we don't ask people to disclose their employees because employees are constantly changing, staff is changing, people resign. It's just not it's not something that we do. We don't ask for that kind of information in the proposal.
But I mean, to be fair, this is kind of like not a usual situation. And so, to me right now, it's like, okay, so if we're saying 0, which is what I'm supporting, like, what does this mean? Does this mean that, what's the impact? Because obviously there's a city employee and, it seems, I don't know. Am I the only one who feels?
If you're recommending 0, it means that.
So say what you're trying to say, I'm not clear on it.
Well, I'm just saying that I understand that, we're not supposed to have information on who's employees and who's this and who's that. But I think that in a case, where there's a possible conflict of interest, I think that actually has to be part of the conversation. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Counselor Juan?
Alicia, let me use me as an example. I work for Nueva. I know that there was a fund, we didn't go for it, but you said we had to file for HUD. I would like this body to know, again, in the future, because as Nueva gets its 501c3 back, we go for money. I would like this body to know, specifically for city employee, because I was under the same assumption. I thought that it was paying for another staffer, but that employee sits in the mayor's office and handles calls for the farmer market out of that office. Is that city time? Is that farmer's market time? And I think that's where maybe if there is a red flag or a conflict of interest, you could let, at least at this level, know, because we just found this out. And that's why I only asked who was it, because I didn't know, because I thought maybe they paid a second person, because I was ready to rip them a new one. Like, who's the second person? Because I know poor Andres is breaking his back over there, and I want this second person to do more farmers markets throughout the city, and I didn't know it was the same human being. So I think that that's why we're all sitting here like, huh?
So to be fair, I completely hear what you're saying. On the other hand, I can't sit here and say, because I didn't write the proposal and I don't know what's in the chamber's head, that the chamber wouldn't take this $15,000 and go and hire another employee. So the current farmer's market manager is the person that we've described, but I can't say for sure sitting here tonight that this money wouldn't be used to hire a second person or a couple of interns or, so that, I mean, that's,
And I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, as OCD, all I'm saying is at the point where there's a conflict of interest filed, I think that besides just the mayor, who's the final appointing board, it has to come through this body at some point. It would be good for us to know that, hey, like I said, even next year or the following year, whether it's me, whomever, there was a conflict of interest filed, or even the CAC, they deserve to know there was a conflict of interest filed, just so you all are aware. It's Counselor, because I'm just using me as an example, ignoring him. Counselor Roman's the ED of blah, blah, blah organization. He's also, his agency's applied. You need to know that there's a potential conflict, but HUD it's filed, everything's good, and I think that then alleviates all that.
so I would say that we track potential conflicts, but we don't do the disclosure process and the notification process until the grants are funded. Because if we did disclosures and the conflict of interest process for everybody that has a conflict, we'd have so many conflicts filed and those processes didn't go anywhere. So we handle it once a grant award is made, before the contract is executed. So there's a period of time when the final recommendations go into HUD and before the contract is executed, and that's the time period where we do the disclosure and the conflict of interest. It's part of our regulatory checklist, and so we're doing environmental review and financials, and then we do conflict of interest at that point as well.
Have you forwarded that to us?
That gets posted publicly, so it does get posted through the city clerk's office.
So we could ask the city clerk for that? Okay. Sure, why don't you? All right,
Can I?
Council Tallman.
I think I'm going along with the zero, but I'm glad you brought that up with the employee and the zero. I mean, we could all discuss this all night long with the zero, but it's basically the mayor. And at the end of the day, he's the one that puts the money in there at the final award, no matter what the council says or what we say or CAC or OCD. But it does seem sort of ironic that somebody that works for him, and he's going to make the decision to put the money in there
Ironic?
for a part-time employee that works in his office. I didn't know this last year. I just found this out tonight. I didn't know he worked there. And I mean, like you stated, it may be somebody totally different. The
could
chamber
think of
might.
other would be on-
And I can see how it's separate. Chamber is something, the city is something. We're two different entities here,
Well-
so. But still, it just, it just doesn't, I mean, with everything going on too with the city, it just doesn't look right. But we can make our voices known and that's it, and just let it go from there.
All right, well, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that was a lot.
Maybe there could be a letter from the DGR committee stating our position on this for the record.
Put a record there.
I don't know.
We could state that at the
Has that been
meeting,
done?
the full
Has that been
council,
done before?
yeah. I don't know.
Sounds like an order.
You could do something with the full council, yeah, if you want to file an order to that effect.
For the record.
For the record, yeah.
Yeah.
I think my colleagues would like to know.
I'd like to apply for the job, if it doesn't say so.
It does. Oh,
Yeah, I
wow,
did.
Alicia, right there, I like it.
I didn't hear what you said.
Alicia,
We recommended
Zero.
nice going. This is, I tell you, we're good,
All right, how much do we have
all right,
left?
let's keep going here, we're almost there.
13,500.
Okay,
you make a motion?
HHA, home buyer ed.
Make a motion to fund home buyer ed for 3,000.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that's a pretty standard one.
Community neighborhood cleanup, I would say a motion to fund it 6,500.
Second.
Just on discussion, if I could, where's the cleanup? What's,
It's a different neighborhood. It's everywhere.
Free.
So,
whatever,
this-
you know.
This proposal is actually a result of the work and the conversations that we've been having with Wayfinders and the Resident Leadership Program. And several of the classes that have graduated have expressed an interest in continuing activities in their neighborhoods. And some of the activities they've described include community cleanups. Instead of having every neighborhood try to put a CDBG application in or have residents try to get together and do a CDBG application, the office did it on behalf of the community. And so our anticipation that is that if this proposal gets funded, we would make funding available to neighborhood groups to have dumpsters, have
Recycle
cleanup,
bins?
pickup, well, not recycle bins, but this is like a one-day neighborhood cleanup type thing. In the past, we've funded dumpsters for very specific cleanups, and this is, if you have a neighborhood group or your ward wants to have a cleanup, we'll arrange and pay for dumpsters to be deposited at whatever location for your community cleanup day. The other piece of this is the city has a number of hoarding cases. The number of hoarding cases has been on the increase, and we've been in conversations with the Board of Health. They have a team that goes out with the police department, with mental health professionals, trying to work with residents who are facing hoarding. Many of those residents are low income and don't have the resources for a dumpster to do an initial cleanup. And so if we had a case that was referred to us by the Board of Health where they said, hey, you know, Mrs. Jones really could use a dumpster to address her hoarding situation, we would be able to arrange for that as well. So this proposal came from the office to save community groups from having to scramble and get an application in. So it would be, if it's funded, it would be available on a first come, first served basis. It would have to be used in a low and moderate income neighborhood, but we'll see how it goes.
Yes, thank you, Alicia, and I want to speak in favor of this because the Ward 2 neighborhood cleanup's going into its third year, and I remember the first year this came up, Carmen, Jerry, the neighborhoods, I know Churchill, the Ward 2 one's July 8th, so I'm going to unleash the Kraken if this gets approved and call Felicita and a couple of the others and say, hey, you guys can apply for that dumpster finally, because literally the last couple of years, just to let my colleagues know, we've filled up all the bags that we've provided ourselves, and then DPW's had to come through if we couldn't get the permit. And so the trash bags just sat out for a night, and then they got picked up the next morning on an off pickup night. And so I think this is a great program, and I fully support it. And I thank you for putting this together, because it just makes sense. If the group knows, or the neighborhood knows, or the ward knows that that's the day you're going to do the cleanup, you can just have a centralized point, and then everyone can come with their bags, put in that one dumpster, fill it up, and I think it's really cool to see it filled up too. So I thank you for doing this.
So the other piece of this that has been done very effectively in Springfield is neighborhood groups, wards again, will have a cleanup, and a lot of our rental properties, the tenants don't have a way to get rid of bulk items. And so we could also arrange, if you had like several blocks and you had a lot of tenants, we could arrange to have a dumpster dropped off and have a bulk collection as well, so they wouldn't be forced to either rent a vehicle or that kind of thing. So
Throw it in the alley.
Yeah.
or throw it in the alley.
Yeah,
So
it's a great idea.
So why did the mayor kind of say no go?
I don't know. I haven't talked to the mayor about his recommendations yet.
Well, it's certainly worth a try. I only wish there was kind of more of use this kind of money to purchase, recycle bins, and not the little ones, but the ones on wheels and all that too. That'd be kind of nice too, because I think with a lot of cleanup comes a lot of recycling as well, and it'd be nice to sort of, once you purchase them, just disperse them to.
We actually got an opinion recently from HUD that says we can't purchase recycling bins for the city under CDBG regulations.
I'm sorry.
We tried. We tried.
Boy, I'd like to see that opinion too. Can you forward that? Yeah, I'd very much like to see the conflict and then the opinion from HUD.
HUD is not environmental.
Because I'll forward that to a VIP office as well, so we'll see what we
It
do
has
with
to do
that.
with the purchase of equipment,
Yeah, well,
so.
whatever, let's see what it says. Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Aye, so that's 6,500 in that one, Zaida, so, how we doing?
4,000.
Okay,
If I
so,
get homework house, make a motion to put that 4,000 into homework house?
well, hold on, let's, Counselor Sullivan, what's your pleasure?
Well, similar, I had a motion to put 2 into Girls Incorporated and 2 into Holyoke Y.
I'll second it. Does anybody have a big,
If you make it as a package, I can't vote on the Y, but that's fine, because I can't vote on Girls Inc.
well, Girls Inc. were at 12,000.
I'm just making a friendly amendment, if I could, to 2 to Y and 2 to homework house, so all three get 12,000, and it's nice and even across the board.
2 to the Y and 2 to,
It's my opinion.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Hold on a second. So 2 to the Y, so that makes it 12,000. And homework house,
Well,
oh, it's right in front of me. Good gravy. 12, okay. On the motion, all in favor?
No,
Well,
just the Y and, just the Y, just the Y and homework house.
yeah, so the Y would go from 10 to 12, and homework house would go from 10 to 12.
Right? They would all be 12.
Better check the bottom line first. Oh, okay, well, let's just take a vote on that. On the motion, to allocate the last 4,000, 2 to the YMCA and 2 to homework house, all in favor? Aye, okay, so that's official.
Motion to put partners for Lucky Homes at $0, just to finish off.
Second.
On that motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay,
Motion to approve, $20,191,389 to administration and planning line items,
well,
211,000.
well, let's just slow down a second.
Gotta break them up.
Okay, so motion to approve $20,000 to nominations for National Register?
so,
Well, we don't have a second for that, so Mike, why don't you make a motion first?
Make whatever motion you want, because he didn't have a second for his.
Or Josie, you can make the motion.
Motion to allocate $10,000 to the nominations to National Register.
All right, I'll second that. Discussion, go ahead.
okay, so just putting something on the National Register doesn't really do anything at all. It does
Oh.
nothing, no.
Jeez.
You get a plaque, you get a bronze plaque, that's what you get,
National Register of Historic Places?
right. No, you get a bronze plaque. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not,
Defer to Alicia.
I'm not sure that you even get a bronze plaque, but what it does set you up for is eligibility for a host of state and federal grants like historic tax credits.
Councilor Mott?
I would encourage this because there's tons of building, especially we talk about CPA money coming online. That's where you leverage this 20,000 towards the CPA for, that whole revitalization. Like that this goes hand in hand. So I think if we undercut it, we're setting ourselves up for failure. My opinion, I would like to see the full 20 because then you could leverage those CPA dollars and say, listen, I'm talking about Nuevas building 1900. It used to be a post office and an apothecary office on the first floor. That's historic. I go upstairs, I find documents and things and I can only imagine all the buildings throughout Holyoke that this would be good to leverage those funds on. And so everyone else recommended 20. Why did OCD recommend the full $20,000 for that same purpose, or what are your thoughts on it?
Because we thought, well, first of all, let me say that if you decide not to fund it at a full 20, we could still think that we could get a couple of buildings on the register. We estimate that the nomination process per building is between 3,000 and 5,000. So we were thinking of starting with 4 buildings. This is coming off the heels of a prior CDBG admin and planning investment in completing the city's historic preservation plan. So it seemed like the next logical step. If you don't want to fund it at 20 and you wanted to go for a lower amount, then we would, we'd get a consultant to do as many buildings as we can for the allocation. And I should say that it's going to be a consultant that we hire. It's not going to be done in-house. So if you eliminate it, you're not eliminating any staffing time for the 3 of us.
Good to know.
Councilor Sullivan?
We also already have buildings registered on the National Register. We have districts on the National Register, okay? That I think, for example, encompass the train station.
We do have some buildings on the National Register already.
More buildings than we could possibly begin working on already. So adding more to the inventory at this point, when we can't even do anything with the ones we have, is something, we could add a couple more here, a couple more there, but we're still not gonna have the money to do anything with them.
That's true. In the city's portfolio, the goal wasn't to limit this to just city-owned buildings, though. If we had a nonprofit owner that was interested in preserving the building or seeking historic tax credits for, let's say, residential rehab, we would be willing to work with them and provide them some initial funding to do this. So I can't say that it's not just for city buildings, But, you know, we do have a number of nonprofit owners that are interested in advancing rehab of the building, so.
Okay, and also, I believe that by putting something on the National Register, it automatically goes onto the state historic, the SHPO, the State Historic.
Yes,
Automatically, but that doesn't stop us from getting something, it doesn't have to be on the National Register to go on the State Register.
it does not.
And all funding comes from the State Register.
No, there are federal historic tax credits. There are federal monies.
Tax credits, but actual funding, grant funding,
Right now, the fund for national, I mean, there is other money out there besides tax credits. There's private foundation dollars that are available.
right, yes.
I'll split the difference. I'll make a friendly amendment 15, just to put it up a little bit more. I think if we can get 4 buildings more, and like I said, I'm just thinking about this, you know, I got a call from a developer who's looking to move the carriage house on a surplus property we just declared tonight. If we get that on the National Historic, even if it's already on there, but if they make a district out of it or buildings next to it, why not? It's 4 buildings. I think it doesn't hurt us. It's not to say that in the city in this future, we don't want to preserve most of our buildings. We don't want them to all come down. And so I think, you know, like I said, friendly amendment, I would say 15,000, bumps it up by 5,000 more, and then it's still cut a little bit. I think the mayor's fully going to fund it. I think it should be fully funded. I'm just trying to, you know, get the will of the body. I don't think we should cut it in half, because I don't think the mayor's going to cut it in half. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't support fully funding it, but that's just my thought.
I can also tell you that the National Register process wouldn't be undertaken for any privately owned land unless the owner was absolutely on board. You have to have the owner's permission to do this, because you have to have access to the building. So it's not as if we would be seeking out buildings where folks don't want to work with us. We would be looking for private property owners that are interested in pursuing this process.
Councilor Valentin?
Do you have a preliminary figure of what that could be at this time, based on conversations your department has had with these folks?
We think that 20,000 would get us 4 to 5 properties on the listing. It really depends on the size of the building, the scale of the project, meaning how big is it, how many photographs need to be taken. But I'm estimating, rough estimate for 20,000, that we could get 4 to 5.
My question was, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. My question is actually, even if you get the 20,000, what does that list look like right now? I mean, in terms of the interest that is already in place.
So for the interest, we have one property owner, one person who has asked about a particular property, and we have the list that we would look at from the historic preservation plan.
Councilor Sullivan?
It's just my feeling that if there's an individual person that wants to have their property listed, then they should spend the $2,000 or $3,000 themselves to pay for the consultant to get it listed.
Okay, so the motion is to make that 15,000 for nominations to National Register. Now, just a housekeeping, if we'll have 5,000 left over, what do we do? We put it to non-public?
It has to go to the top, to non-public services.
Let's go non-public, okay.
So housing, infrastructure, you could put it on sidewalks.
I think we have 0 for sidewalks, so it's really not gonna, but we can find somewhere else for it. Okay, on the motion to make it 15,000, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. So 15,000, let's just,
Finish this section.
yeah.
Motion to approve administrative and planning of CBDG at $191,389.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so that's 191,389.
And then can we just approve this back half first?
Yeah,
before we-
Alicia, we have to approve the
Oh, we
home,
don't? Okay.
the home funds?
Nope.
We don't we take a vote on that?
We've taken a vote.
You take a vote on the home funds when the full city council issues its recommendations, and you take a vote to accept the home funds from HUD.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
We've always
okay.
voted to
all right, so that leaves us with
5,000 at the top.
5,000 for,
Can I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to put the 3,000 back in the Springdale Park rehab? If we just got extra money, we took 3,000 out of it, to just put 3,000 back into it, if that's okay with my colleagues?
Second.
Sounds good. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that makes Springdale
The-
Park
the rehab.
Rehab Phase 1,
50.
50,000. Boy, that went through a lot of gyrations. That leaves us with $2,000. Do I have that right, Zaida? Okay, thank you. 2,000, is there somewhere where we can plug in $2,000 at this? What heavy,
There's
that would be like a,
Can you scroll to the top, please?
I mean, I would think demo would probably,
Yeah,
can we add the 2,000 to demo?
second.
So make it, the demo will go from 50 to 52.
Yep.
I really don't see anywhere else we can put it, frankly.
I agree.
Where would it be more effective? in
No,
that or
demo.
demo?
Demo would be better.
Yeah.
Okay, on the motion to move demo from 50 to 52, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's now 52,000. Okay, Jen, you have that? Everybody has that? Zeta, have that? Okay. All right,
Is that it? We're over? Why is it so?
yeah, the 5,000 that
Oh,
came
that makes
from,
sense, that makes sense.
yeah, that's okay. So we can do that. Do we need one vote to sort of approve all our motion? I think we went through the whole thing, so.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just read down to make sure that the two of us have captured what your votes have been. Do you mind? We'll just quickly go
I don't
down the
mind.
list.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Wayfinder, 0, Demo, 52,000, Code Enforcement, 134,550, Holyoke Farm, 0, Hadley Village, 0, NIP, 163,122, Green and Fit, 125, 0 to the Board of Health for emergency shelter, 30,000 for the Dingle, 150 for Valley Arena, Springdale Park, sidewalk and lighting, 0. Public Library, 0. Springdale Park Rehab Phase 1, 50. Springdale Park Baseball Field, 16,500. Dean Tech, 15,000. Public Works Sidewalks, 0. Sewer Relining, 0. Creative Placemaking, 0. Micro Enterprise Grants, 0. And Developer Incentive, 0. Moving on to Public Services, Camp for Kids, 0. Boys and Girls Club, 4230. Girls Inc., Holyoke Y, and Homework House all at 12,000. Youth Commission, I have 0, but I know you took a vote. It was 0, okay.
Yep.
All right. Tech is 2,000. Elder Disabled Meals on Wheels, 15,000. Working for the Future, 7,500. Career Point, 0. CEP, 13,000. And LASSE, 8,000. Holyoke Community College, 0. Lighthouse School, 0. Providence Ministries Food Works, 5,000. 0 for Roca, 0 for Success Center 1 and 2, and 3,500 for HAP. Next page, Laredo House and Margaret's Pantry, 25,000 each. Domestic Violence Intervention, 15,000. 0 for the Market Manager, 3,000 for Homebuyer Education, 6,500 for Neighborhood Cleanup, 0 for Healthy Homes. On the last page, 15,000 for nominations to the National Register, and 191,389 for admin and planning. Thank you all very much.
Oh, hold on a second. Councilor Oman goes first, Councilor Thomas second.
So again, I thank you for this process, and to my colleagues, and again, in the CAC, I just again want to say with all due respect, this is exactly why I love this process, and going line by line, because we don't agree on everything from every level, and we still, as a council and body, will probably vote to do a lot of the work that we did today, but the mayor's ultimately the final deciding factor, and I love to go back to those groups that call me and say, hey, you guys in DGNR voted for this, and I say, well, you still have one final stop, and that's the mayor's office. So I thank you all for indulging us in this process, and I really feel like I channeled Joe McGivern tonight, so I can't wait to see him, and I felt like I fought the good fight tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Tomlin?
No, it was a good night today, and I thank you for your help in explaining a lot of this to us. I mean, I've been on this for a number of years, and I was on the CAC when I first got on the council, and really to go through this process and to vet all the different agencies, I think is important, and to have a little bit of compromise. And as my colleague stated, the final say goes to the mayor, but I think he does listen to what the community asks, the CAC and our committee really really talk about and really have a good dialogue about these different agencies and how you stated that everything is really, important. Every agency is important. And you stated earlier about helping our community. We're working to help better our community. And that's the bottom line. So I really thank you for your assistance tonight.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Around us and behind us and in front of us, so thank you for everybody for that. Also, I think the committee did a great job again, so thank you to the committee as well for all the hard work, especially to our CAC members for the extra time that they put in, and which is volunteer work, and to the CAC member who's here tonight, thank you so much for coming tonight. So you kind of see how our process, so we take it seriously. We just don't want to hit the rubber stamp. So that was very helpful too. So with that, I think we're good. On the motion, all in favor? Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you.